It's your favorite FGC VTuber, Greatest Gamer 00 here, joined with, how do you say your name, by the way, actually? Is it Kuronoki or Oki?
Yep, that's right.
Kuronoki? Say hi to the...
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
I'm going to start off by saying that we're going to have Kuronoki introduce himself. But Kuronoki, please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Undernight and what's your part in, well, at least being an FGC head as you would.
Sure. So I'm basically a Twitch streamer. I do have a YouTube as well, but haven't really uploaded too much yet onto there. But yeah, I've been playing fighting games all my life. I want to say I got into Undernight pretty recently, actually. I'm pretty relatively new to the game and the scene itself. I think I started playing in February of 2022 with Uniclear, so the last game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, basically got into the game because it happened to be on a Steam sale. Checked it out because I've been into all fighting games, right? Play a bit of everything, especially when it comes to the 2D fighters. So yeah, checked it out, streamed it for a bit, and it actually ended up getting really into the game. Quite enjoy it. At the moment, it is definitely one of my favorite fighting games outside of Guilty Gear Plus R.
Oh, that's interesting. So you actually got into the Undernight franchise after I did, because the way I watch them actually, by the way, you guys. The way it almost seems is well, granted, you know more than I do, but that's because you got more invested than I ever did. I almost thought for the longest time that you got into Undernight before I did, because I got into the PS3 again for the video you guys mentioned earlier. But yeah, I got into this when it was free on PlayStation Plus, and no one even knew what Undernight was, because PP Tag was one of the biggest reason anyone ever got into Undernight or heard of it, right? But that's interesting. Again, further interest. So you said you've been playing it for as long as you can remember, right? Or what would you say is your first fighting game, and then how did that get into you being a lot more hardcore, Guilty Gear Accent Core?
I'd say my first fighting game was probably Street Fighter 2, specifically Turbo Hyper Fighting. I think I still have my copy of that on the SNES. But yeah, I've been playing them since I was a kid, all my life basically.
Oh.
And yeah, I think I was the most into Marvel 3, Street Fighter 4 around that era, around 2012. That was kind of when I was the most into fighting games. That's when my interest and ability as a competitive player really increased. Marvel 3 is by far my favorite fighting game of all time, and I think that's the closest when I was ever most competitively viable. I think I was pretty good at that game. Online on the leaderboards for that I was in top 50 ranks around there. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I got really competitive with fighting games. But after that, kind of took a break around those years after those games. Wasn't too interested in anything out at that time during that time period. But recently with Plus R, I got back into fighting games quite a bit.
Oh, and if I recall, you had a similar story with Accent Core. You seen it on a Steam sale and got it, and also really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, okay.
I saw the announcement for Strive. Had never played a Guilty Gear game. I saw stuff about it. I saw excerpts for that, right? But I was oh, I saw this game on sale for very, very cheap price. So I picked it up, trying to see if it would get me ready or give me an idea what Strive was going to be like. And yeah, ended up falling in love with that game. Unfortunately, Strive was a very different game on release, but yeah, I still stick to Plus R. Quite love that game.
So me and him have, who doesn't have that story as far as Accent Core, right? Because nobody, same. I knew about Guilty Gear, never really played it. Then played Accent Core, really love that. Played Strive, also really love that. But we all know how things turned out with that one. But and then the other one I want to say, do you play anything else outside of fighting games?
I play a bit of everything. A lot of RPGs, a lot of single person shooters, basically.
What about turn-based games, isometric games, tactical games?
Yeah, a lot of everything basically.
All right, cool, perfect. That's a good way to start the introduction. So it's funny that I'm the Undernight, I guess, veteran by terms of time.
By time frame, yeah.
Yeah. But for FGC, nah, you've been into it far longer than me. Again, mini context I didn't put into the other video, but for me, when I got into fighting games, I very lightly played fighting games. I'm pretty casual. The one I mainly cared about was Mortal Kombat. Very basic bitch, as one would say. And even up until middle school, but it wasn't right until the beginning of high school because I was a huge Resident Evil fan. I just got done doing a playthrough, and I was a huge Wesker fanboy. Then I seen the announcement trailer for Wesker for MVC3, and immediately I was like, oh yeah, I have to get it, right? I was a bit disappointed that it was 2D. I wanted it to be full 3D like the Naruto games, right? But at that point, I didn't really realize that fighting games had an insane amount of depth. I knew shooters. I was at the beginning of my stages, what made me the gamer I am today. People who don't know, Resident Evil 4 and Guitar Hero were the start of me just playing games casually to being a bit more serious, realizing, okay, games are actually are hard and have depth. And 5, I was that was my first platinum ever. And so of course Resident Evil 5 stayed to my heart, and I was a huge Marvel fan at that point too. So Marvel vs. Capcom was it was reaching that, it was the gateway drug into being from someone who was understanding games had depth to then being oh dude, they're fucking hard, true depth. Because up until that point, I played a bunch of genres as well, and it wasn't until I played fighting games that I truly understood how deep games could get. Because never up until again, Resident Evil and Guitar are kind of they can ease you in because of adjusting difficulty for RE4 and 5 as well, and then you can get better and you can pick the hard mode, and the hard mode for both a Guitar Hero game and Resident Evil are just insane, right? Different requirements. One is purely focused on execution and skill, speed, and then the other one's about thinking, timing, and then practice and shit. Then fighting games just combine the two, and it's oh shit, that's. And to this day, I still play every other genre extensively. Actually, most people don't know this, that they think, oh, you're the fighting game channel. No, dude, I actually got into every genre, and fighting games were the last genre I actually got into. Up until then, I really played them casually. passively and didn't truly understand. Like I literally thought fighting games were archaic as hell. I'm like, why are they 2D? Like we have 3D, you know? I thought like we have a PS3, why are they still 2D? Then playing Marvel's Capcom, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like you trying to do the execution, even I inherently understood. I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to do a quarter circle in a 3D space? That makes no sense. So then, yeah, no. So, you know, I was fairly ignorant for the longest time. And then of course, you know, the whole
Exactly. Like I wouldn't say I really learned how to play fighting games until I got like deep into like Marvel 3 and Street Fighter 4. Like before that, I had to play like a ton of them. Right? I played Mortal Kombat, played Street Fighters, played like KOFs, all the old ones. I never like really like learned how to play them. I like just like knew them at a casual level. I could do like inputs, like basic combos, but like the actual like deep like nuances of fighting games, like I didn't know about.
Right. Oh, cool. I mean, yeah, no, it's just an interesting story. I think it's a good way to start off the conversation so people can get a decent idea of where we're coming from, right? But yeah, we're pretty hardcore.
I think so.
And of course, oh my god. Okay, cool. Because I just adjusted the audio because I literally was looking at my audio levels and I'm like, bro, it did it again. But I've never seen it do it mid, you know, conversation. It's like, oh god, OBS. Okay, cool. All right, now that we got the introductions out the way, I want to go ahead and set what was your actual, I mean, especially for me, like I know you said it a bit, but like you watched my channel before, right? Like, well, I mean, here's a better thing for everyone else too, I guess many answers. Like, what are some of your favorite videos and, you know, thoughts of me as like a content creator at the very least?
Personally, I enjoy like kind of like your like best friends videos. Like I like seeing you like hang out. Same with like anyone else with other content creators. I like when they just like kind of vibe with friends and like play games together. So far, those some are like in my favorite videos, as well as your like Resident Evil like meme videos. Like I love those things. Like yeah, big fan of Resident Evil myself. You mentioned like Wesker and some of the older like REs like RE4 and RE5, and yeah, I think pretty funny because I used to play like Wesker on my team in Marvel 3. Used to have like a kind of like a lower like tier team with like Wesker, Chris, and Nemesis and UMVC 3. Not the highest tier team there, but I used to make it work. So
I mean, that's MVC.
Yeah, big fan of the content like the Resident Evil and fighting games of yours.
Right. Oh, thank you. Yeah. That I actually have commentated before, and I'm really good friends with lakc esports here in Chicago, and I've been over to Japan, so you know, fairly been around competitor, and I've placed at least top 8 for every fighting game I've paired for at least at some point for a fighting game. You know, like Tekken, I got 5th at ASIN, and I forget the amount of times. Whatever, you know, along like FGC's history, probably my most impressive feats is getting top 100 with Potemkin in Guilty Gear Strive. You know, year 1, and I never played fucking Guilty Gear. I tried out for Street Fighter 6 for the CPT tour. Sadly, did not make it for some reasons, but I feel proud that I was able to at least get master rank like 3 times and clap everyone that wasn't a master rank. And then the master ranks is like, okay, we had a pretty fair match. So, you know, not bad, all things considered. I think I had a fair shot of getting a couple $1 million, or if not, at least a couple thousand, because just qualifying gets you like $14,000. I'm like, yo, bet. But, you know. Oh, I guess final one, last one is my biggest, probably highest position I've ever commentated was doing one of the commentary seats for Jazzy Circuit, because our guys were helping host it last minute, and that explains why they needed a commentator last minute, and I got to commentate, and I absolutely loved it, because I love Third Strike. You know, who doesn't love Third Strike? And shout outs to 4C Joe and everybody else at the arcade here over at Chicago still playing Third Strike, and big shout outs to Will English for hosting us and on the YouTube channel, and of course shout outs to lakc esports for, you know, giving me the chance to commentate Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. What about you, Chronoki? What are some of your feats as FGC wise, you know, whether it's commentating or but yeah, Chronoki.
Well, in terms of like my like feats, mostly like we used to be like a net player like warrior. Like as I said before, I was like pretty like high into like the online ranks of like Marvel 3, like Street Fighter 4. But recently, I kind of like recently got more competitive, specifically with like Plus R and like Under Night. In terms of specifically Under Night, I do have like 2 wins under my belt. I have a win in a beginner lobby, or a beginner tourney, I should say, and also a VTuber tournament. There's quite a few tournaments I do like happen to play in every once in a while. Mostly like the WAS like opens, the previously called Mash Fest. Used to be kind of like a regular in that. Unfortunately, time scheduling and everything, the days like they play them on, it's like not the best for me, so I haven't been playing them like too often. But yeah, I happen to win one of their beginner tourneys and also like a separate like VTuber tourney. So
that's pretty cool.
That's like kind of like my history with like Under Night so far.
Okay, I would say you have a similar thing like me, where when you hop onto something new, you catch on fairly quickly. Would you say?
I'd say so. I've been like told before. I learned pretty quickly. Okay. In terms of like the other beginners and like the beginner lobby I used to play in, actually, I used to be like told I learned pretty quickly, and I was like kind of like kicked out of that. I like graduated, as they said. Like,
yeah, I mean that's that. There you go. Yes, that's how you know it's working. If you're winning, all right, you're out of the beginners tournament. That's how this works. I've have to do that before, because of course, for those who don't know, last one, because I do so much crap. I also help teach fighting game to beginners, and we've had plenty of good donations thanks to Rock. Shout outs to Rock for donating like $300 to the channel. That man needs to be stopped. He went from Nooblet to actually reaching Celestial, and now he's at least Platinum 1 with Geef. Big Grappler fan, so of course he was introduced because of my Potemkin video, which I believe you've seen, right, Chronoki?
Oh, yep.
You haven't mentioned you haven't been to any locals or anything, have you, or any big events, IRL?
I don't really like travel too often. Kind of like don't have the funds at the moment.
Fair
but
enough.
Maybe in the future. Yeah, maybe in the future. I'm hoping to like play stuff for like under night. Like yeah.
Oh man.
Plus R.
And I'm assuming that in your area, I mean, you don't have to give away more or less if you're in a state or something like that. If you want to maintain your privacy, that's fine, by the way. But in your area, I'm assuming there's not like any locals or anything, right?
There's one. It's like not too far off actually, but it's like a little drive. So I usually don't often like to. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. The situation kind of became for me when my locals got further away into Chicago. So I mean, I'm in Chicago, but I'm like literally at the border, southeast, right off like the highway, and trying to get into Chicago. And like, yeah, it's not that far off, but it's like, you know, some days you just go, I don't feel like going, you know. And again, similar for me, funds, but I made really good funds. Anyone who knows of the channel way back, that's why I was way more active. But COVID kind of ruined everything, and I'm assuming it did for a lot of people, you know. But that's a completely different conversation. You just made me think. But okay, I think we've covered our bases here as far as introductions. You'd say, Chronoki, or anything you'd like to ask?
I hope so. I think I can kind of give like a pretty like fresh perspective on like Uni, considering I'm relatively like new to the game, like the scene itself, but I am big into the game, do love it, and I'm excited for like Uni 2 and its release pretty soon.
Right. No, and the crazy thing is the way, like I said, I always figured you as like, because I think I followed you around the time when you started both-ish. I always figured you were into the scene a lot longer than I thought. Like I thought you were more of a veteran than me. I mean, clearly, like I said, you put in the extra effort. Me, I just, you know, whatever. Even to the point where I thought you were like, because I knew you told me, okay, you're a bit new, but I saw your camrine and stuff, and I was like, you went from like, okay, camrine was better than mine. And I was like, oh, okay. For some reason, I always had the perception that you were like one of the bigger heads. If anything, I thought you were like one of the top 10 carmine for this game. Or maybe you are. I don't know. What would you say?
Maybe active at the moment. Maybe that's a big maybe. But yeah, there's like not too many Carmine players, especially at the top level. Sure. He's a pretty difficult character and a pretty underrepresented character. But yeah, that is who I main in that game.
Right, and of course, I mean, it's under 9. I mean, the whole thing. Look, if you're not one of like the big 3 fighting games or one of the big fighting games, the population starts to dwindle. Where being the top of insert character here, especially if they're not that popular pick, is like, but it's not that hard when not that many people, especially Guilty Gear players themselves, play Strive, because they kind of pull I'm gonna stick to Rev, I'm gonna stick to Axe and Core. All right, so that's another thing I want to mention to you guys. Like, yeah, you could be one of the best. I mean, no, don't get me wrong, I actually had the best Waldstein going to my stream one time. Super cool dude, right? Like, he fucking just clapped the shit out of me. But again, like, they are good. Like, anyone who's top in their games, I want to give this game, they're clearly good. They put in effort. They're not free or anything like that, contrary to what some people might think. But, you know, my whole thing is like, even just being behind them, like, you could be good, but it's not that hard. Like, okay, like, you can get the best Waldstein player, then you can get the second best Waldstein. There could be a huge gap between them just because the player base is just that small, you know? I mean, that's an example. I'd assume at least top 5 to 10. They're closer in a gap than we think. From what I've played, right? I've been in the scene here in Chicago, and I tend to see people that are like top 5 and 8 are fairly close. And then after that, it's a huge drop off. Like BB Tag, for example, like me and Klossenbaum. Klossem had to grind his way up. Like, he was like beneath everyone else. He was like, you consider 8th place, and I was like in front of him like 7th, 6th. And like the gap between like me and him, okay, I would consistently win. It'd be hard for him to win. And then me and like one of the best anime players, the arm, oh, that motherfucker would clap me, you know. And then it would just be me and him playing catch up. And you know. And the thing is, you'd be surprised. It's a grind. It took him a year, but Klossem actually even surpassed me because I stopped playing BB Tag as much. So, you know, things can change. So it's not a big gap, but it is a bit of an effort. It shows you how much effort that someone puts in, even for a game that, like, again, there's like, again, you can say in our local, 8 people really playing it, but man, they're putting in that freaking effort. And you know, big shout outs to everybody in these small communities really holding it together. I mean, I personally got to experience it myself. Yeah, no, man. Like I said, it could be 8 people playing, man, but them 8 motherfuckers are going. Like, if it's Street Fighter 6 at its peak popularity, like that's the most impressive thing.
Exactly,
personally, I gotta say, is that even though no one's really playing it, it's like 8 dudes. Man, they go hard, bro. They lab it to this day, and you know what? I gotta test. Sometimes I'll pop into one of these old school games. I'm like, wait, is this new tech? Heck, I was just doing some Akuma combos, and I found this weird wall carry tech with Akuma and Tekken 7 of all things, and I'm like, I don't think Akuma players know this, but I don't care, so I'm not gonna share this. And it seems like too much effort. But you know, this is part of the fun. That's what fighting games are. They're just so deep, and the fact that it only really requires 2 people, you know, the skill ceiling can just continue to rise. I mean, just look at one of the best examples is Mena RD for Street Fighter. That dude became one of the best players in the world, and he just really had like a handful of sparring partners, and in Dominican Republic with no good internet,
exactly,
let alone locals. But the passion alone and the depth of the game is what absolutely carried him. Now, one of the most well-respected players in Latin America. Like, he's actually the champion. Like, people are like, yeah, of course for his country, good representation. I always love seeing unknown countries that aren't Japan or America. Don't get me wrong, I love my Japanese and American players, but there's, it's like a nice, cool underdog story when you see a different flag you normally don't ever see there. So it's like, there's a representation of like, oh, okay, cool, someone that isn't the big two, and then, oh, it's for our region, like a Europe region or Asia region or Latin America region, so that's where MENA is. And of course, it's even better if it's like a smaller country, right? Again, good example, Dominican. Like, no one would ever think to see the Dominican Republic up into the big screen, right? So big shout outs to them. Now I want to let's get to the crux of what started this, and that's the video. And again, everyone, I'll post it in here for those who don't know about the video. And basically, long story short, the video was me. The reason I even had it is just because I was first passionate about fighting games. I have been getting a bit frustrated with how fighting games have been handling things, for me personally, at least, because I look at games first as like consumer, then as like a gamer. I always have. Like, I even just recently played Need for Speed Undercover, and that's a game that's considered one of the worst Need for Speeds of all time. And I thought maybe I'm just getting nostalgic, and I played it. This is a good example. I know it's weird, but it ties in actually. And I remember at the time I actually did have critiques of it, but they were what I would expect, right? And this helps with this conversation, help enhance it a bit more, is that because when I would play games back in the PS1 to PS2, I think we've all experienced this no matter the game. You'd be like, okay, there's like 3 modes, very basic, whatever. You have fun, and it gets rated 8 out of 10. And then you get to the sequel, and it's like, oh, it's like better in every single way. And then people will look back in retrospective, and they'll be like, you know what, this game, a good example, like the Smash Brothers games, you look, the first one, super basic. If you try to go back to it now, and you come from like even something like Brawl, on the Wii or the GameCube one, almost feels doesn't as fun, and you start to see the limitations. But at that time, because there was nothing like it, and it's the first of its kind, and it was super early, you forgive that. But now if you release something as bare as Smash Brothers, which happened, it's called PlayStation All-Stars. If anything, it's a bit higher. It had a slightly bigger cast, an actual, mode of story, and that's about it. Like, that's all it did. It had 2 extra things that the original one didn't, and it got bombasted. They're like, because it got compared to what the standard was. They're like, okay, why do you not have an adversary mode? Why do you not have co-op? Why do you not have a trophy room? It's like, because it was PlayStation's first attempt. And I feel like some people forget that we got to give some slack to games when they first come onto the scene. You have to build off of that. And again, it's expectations, right? And I noticed that around the PS3 era, again, going back to Need for Speed Undercover. And yeah, no, the game actually aged fairly well. I was like, because I would see reviews and they would compare it to Most Wanted. And I was like, they would say, oh, here's the system, this. And I'm like, the game's a lot, but guess why I didn't have it? I didn't find it as bad. Because it was one of my first racing games I actually owned and fully beat start to finish, not just something I casually played. So to me, I was like, oh, it's like, yeah, it's a PS3 game, but it might as well have been a PS1 game to me. And on top of that, again, so that's what it is, expectations can be different. But when you go and play a previous game, you're like, it has this, this, and that. And then you go to the next one. Like, I noticed this, a lot of PS3 games, you go to the PS2 version, then you go to the PS3 one, yeah, it looks better and all this stuff. But then you're like, okay, what happened to the mode that was in the last game? Okay, why is the story mode shorter? Those are great examples, right? And it's only gotten honestly worse in my opinion. Like, maybe they'll add just one more mode and make the story mode a little bit longer, but you're like, that's not good enough. We're not even at where we were with the PS2 version of this game. And I know it's even fighting games to some degree, and this is where I want to get back to that. I feel fighting games have been stuck with the format that we've had since the 90s to the 2000s, and we haven't really gone past that. And that's one of the biggest reasons I have such a huge critique of Under Night, because I always gave it a huge pass. Because like, okay, again, Under Night 1, it's their first title. You can only give them so much in the little updates. But now we're at the point where Under Night's been around for a good while, good publicity. We have rollback. Arxis is bigger than they ever have been, or who knows, And now it has a 2 on that. So I have higher expectations. Like, the other ones I can forgive because they have these cert titles, so it's like, it's like a spin-off, something. But we are in the next generation, like 2 generations since Under Night first came out. Remember, it was on PS3, now PS4, and now we're on PS5. It's the next generation. It has a number on it. I have moderate expectations as a product for Under Night, and in that expectation, it really disappointed me. And then there's other areas too, because I play fighting games a lot. So if anyone's wondering, that was my main inspiration to make that video. And honestly, especially around with how expensive games are, I feel like $60 is just too much for something that feels like there's like little to no upgrade. And all the things, like I covered it all in the video. I don't want to, but that's the gist of it. Chrnoicles, if you had any, did you have any thoughts that you want to say while I was saying any of that?
Yeah, I kind of actually want to disagree with you on like some of your last comments there. Like, as a product as a whole, I think the Under Night 2 game is coming up to be like a very good game. It's like a really good product. It's not even actually full price. It's not a full $60
Really?
game. It's actually gonna be like $50.
Okay.
So in terms of that and what the game is offering, all the new features, the gameplay itself, how it plays, like the quality of the gameplay itself, I think it's gonna be like a very good product. I have heard, to be fair, that the game is actually expensive in other regions. I think like that's kind of a more of an ArcSys as a whole problem. All their games kind of have bad regional prices from what I hear, but and now I think it's pretty gonna be like pretty fairly priced. I don't mind paying like full price for it. I already pre-ordered the game because yeah, I'm clearly like in love with the game. I'm excited for it, but only the $60 version is the deluxe edition. So base version, which also comes with like the DLC pass by itself, like just for pre-ordering the game, I think it's a pretty fair price, I'd say.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, so that's a mistake on my end for not knowing it was $50 over 60. So that's my apologies on that one. That's a mistake on my end. But at the end of the day, most people just assume, unless it's like a super huge announcement, which I guess kind of comes to my point to pricing, which is super important in this day and age. You know, it's why I said I think, like I said, one of my biggest critiques is pricing. So I guess they kind of have that. But it's funny because BB Tag did the same thing, right? And this is where I kind of feel, I hate when I see some kind of level of hypocrisy. You might agree with me on this one. Is I hate seeing it so much. Like, oh, when one does it, oh, but when the other one does it, oh, it's not okay if they do it. Like BB Tag, it was $45. I thought that was a super great price. And if you never, new IP, I mean, whatever, I thought it was great. But then when you realize they cut the content and they want to charge you more and it's going to be like 50 or 60 and it's like, but this should already be in the game. Why are you cutting? And then it left a really sour taste in people's mouth. And it's one of the reasons why BB Tag didn't. And you know what? I respect that. Like, I love BB Tag, but I respect people. Like, you got to show these companies you can't get away with this kind of stuff. And another thing I want to say is that ArcSys is not above of finding, you know, manipulative ways, because at the end of the day, when you look at money pricing, all it is just marketing, and then, oh, how much money can we get, whatever. People may not realize this, but money doesn't always correlate to how much effort and money they actually put into the product. It's how much can we actually get out of people, right? And that's why I say, like, as far as the whole pricing thing, and that's why price does matter, because at the end of the day, the pricing is the same. Like, if you convert it in currency, it's the same. It's just that around the world, thanks to COVID, again, this is why it is important. It's just relevant to the conversation, right? I don't have to bring up a disease that's super, you know, kind of serious, and it has nothing to do with gaming in a sense. Well, actually, for the FGC, it does, because, you know, tournaments and stuff. But yeah, a lot of people's
netcode,
yen. Oh, true, exactly. Yep. Great, good point. And like the yen, for example, has been fluctuating like crazy because of COVID. So that's just Japan. Japan's doing a lot more better than all of these third world countries that they're the main ones that complaining. I've heard from like fellow Latin Americans, and they straight up have said, oh, I can't even buy Undernight or like KOF. It's just too expensive. And that's why I feel like right now, for me, this is the whole money debate, is that it doesn't matter how much money you put whatever product, right? But if you want to sell, homie, you got to be $25, bro. Straight up. We live in the market of free to play. That is your competition. No one's buying games for $60 to $70. I've seen the statistics not that long ago, actually. It just, no, unless it's something that you really, really super love. Good example, Chroni's going to pay full price, right? And I think he's valid in doing that. He has the spare money, and I respect people who, you know what? I want to support this product. I believe it's worth it. That's good money, because it goes to the developers, and it shows that you can keep supporting the product, right? But to the average person who's just going to be casual or whatever, they're like, yeah, no, I'm just going to wait for sale. Which is another good thing, is that that's not, we now live in the age of sales, like wait a month or two, and Undernight's going to go on sale for like a decent discount, I would say. And then maybe in a year, oh, you could get it for like super omega cheap. And I would say, I think the first 3 months is pretty good. So if Undernight looks like something you want to try and maybe it could be low, just wait for a sale, you know, because I personally really, really love Undernight. Like, I don't critique Undernight because I hate it or anything. I critique it because I really care, and I would love more people to play it, you know. That's where it comes from.
And you want it to be better, yeah.
Exactly. But another thing I guess I would like to hear more about is how exactly, like, as a product, do you think it's better? Like, explain some of the things that you're like, what did they add? Because I personally don't know too much. I feel like this is a bit more in-depth, and I want to let you speak before I give my perspective on why I think as a product it's just not worth $50, even as maybe as an enthusiast.
Sure. So I think in terms of like the product or the game as a product as a whole, I think it is like definitely worth $50, as I said. And I think at the base level, it comes down to like what I think every fighting game should have in terms of just like modes. Okay. So they haven't exactly showed off the single player mode. Like, there's no exact confirmation of any of this as I'm aware so far. But considering it's all like in the last game, this is like a sequel. I'm pretty sure, I'm like basically 99% sure all this content is gonna be in the game in the release. But it basically has everything that I believe a fighting game should have like nowadays, which is a bit surprising when games like don't do this, don't include these modes. But it's going to have, of course, your arcade mode, your single-player mode, right? It's going to have your Chronicles mode, the story mode of the game. It's also going to be having, like, other side modes, like score attack, time attack, survival, those other kind of, like, extra modes that are always there for fun. And then the one more thing, actually, about the Chronicles mode is, like, basically, for anyone that's, like, lore enthusiast or loves stories and fighting games, which a lot of them are, like, pretty bare bones in terms of content, right? The Chronicles mode, the story mode of, like, Undernight games are very, very huge. They're essentially, like, a full visual novel game within your fighting game, right? So the next game is going to be apparently like finishing up the lore, finishing up the lineage story. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff to do, a ton of like content in the Chronicles mode itself. Personally, I have not even like finished it myself because that thing takes like a long time to get through. every character has like their own like story mode. So that's like fantastic, right? And a great thing for like anyone who's like interested in like the lore or just the characters of the game itself. But basically for that point, I think it has like everything a fighting game like should have at a base level, right? So whenever a game doesn't have like something like survival or like time attack, it's just surprising to me because those are like pretty simple modes that have been around since like the early days of fighting games. So I think that's a pretty good inclusion on the part of UNI 2. But in addition to that, all the new features that they're adding like basically have already sold me on the game. Like I already paid for it, right, as I said. But the biggest one, of course, we've already like been like mentioning this a little bit, is the rollback netcode, right? That's one of the things that like basically has like dragged down the game, the series as a whole. Is like it was always delay based, right? To be fair, in my experience, it is definitely is one of the better delay based games out there because there's a vast like array of differences between like how good a game's like delay based netcode is compared to other games. And in my opinion, my experience, this is like definitely one of the better ones compared to some of the bad ones out there. But yeah, the rollback netcode is one thing that has like held back this game, the series. And a lot of people have said, I've seen like so many people say that like they'd play this game, they'd get into it if it had a rollback. It's just like they can't like play it with the delay based netcode and like the bad connections they get. So right there, that kind of solves like the biggest issue that was holding back the series, in my opinion, the inclusion of rollback netcode. And not even just like basic rollback netcode, it is actually going to be like name brand like rollback netcode. And and the credits of the beta, it specifically said they were using GGPO. So basically, what that means is like the best kind of netcode you can get in terms of rollback. And from the beta I did play on the PS4, felt great, dude. Felt great. I don't even know who I was like playing against. Like I don't know what part of the country or part of the world they were from, but like, none of the fights I had like bad connections at all. I was playing with some friends on like streams that I know are from like either like the West or the East Coast. And the connections were like smooth as butter, dude. Like very, very smooth, very good like rollback there. That's already like pretty good sign to me. Hopefully the PC version is just as good, but I have hope, Brad. I have hope it's gonna be just as good.
I think it'll be better. The PC version is almost always better. You know, it's the only exception has been right now as far as fighting games is Mortal Kombat for some reason being worse than the console version, but that's the exception, not the norm.
Melty was like kind of like that too. Like Type Lunema had like definitely issues over the PC version compared to the PS4 version. But
you just reminded me, BB Tag had issues as well for the first month too.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but no, actually, I have to agree with him on this one. Yeah, no, so this is gonna be a segment is gonna be rollback. I'm gonna put the timestamp below, but yeah, no, for sure the rollback. And the thing is, the funny thing about rollback games is the reason I feel like they play a better lot with these 2D fighters is because of the fact that they're not demanding that much from the parts on the computer, because people don't know, you know, a small synopsis, especially someone who's actually implementing it in a game. It's like in theory, you're basically just playing the game in the background, like it's simulation at double the frame rate. Is the best way. The guy who helped invent it, he works at KI, and he said it's like imagine playing that the game is running at 60, you see it and everything, but in the background it's like playing at 120. And the reason why it's looking ahead, it will assume, like say if you're holding back during a string, it's gonna assume you're gonna keep holding back for the next couple frames.
Exactly. Yep.
And then if it gets it wrong, it just rolls back and gives you the correct one on your screen, right? And the thing is, anyone who knows anything about anything running at 120, I mean, granted, it's just not doing the graphics or anything, so it's just purely like button detections and inputs, and then later on it'll update the graphics card or something. But it's still very CPU intensive. And in my opinion, one of the best rollback games, two of them, is Killer Instinct and Hexen Core. Those are like the gold standard for rollback. And in my opinion, other ones, some have come close. I think Multiblade has come close to Hexen Core. In terms for like 3D fighters, oddly, Street Fighter 6 is actually close to KI. Strive at first was doing pretty good, but now it just got awful. Online feels unplayable now, but I don't know what messed it up there. But Street Fighter 6 is actually pretty good as far as rollback goes. Like weird as far as 3D fighters. But here's why I'm gonna make distinction between 3D and 2D. It's a lot easier to run a 2D game than it is a 3D game. I think anyone can look at both and be like, why? So I wasn't that like surprised that Under Night's rollback was pretty good. If anything, I just expected it, but I was like, I wonder at what level it's gonna be, right? Like, is it gonna be like a bit tweak, or is it, you know, it's almost like a standard. Like, it's gonna be like the funniest thing, you could get like not the worst. There are some actually that did really botch it, but you could get like say the worst that's still playable. It's not completely awful, and it'll be better than most 3D fighters, right? So
exactly,
right, because one of the biggest problems too, especially this happened with Street Fighter 5, is because of the 3D. Like, it's pushing the PS4 so bad that it starts to slow down the CPU, therefore messing with the rollback, and that's why literally in Street Fighter 5, if the person you're playing had a dirty PS4 they never cleaned out and they're playing on Wi-Fi, you would get screwed over because you had the better system, cleaner system, and better internet. So when people are saying like, oh, these people on Wi-Fi, no, they are winning. Their side is going to be fine because you have to compensate for theirs tweaking. So that's a fault of rollback that I do believe you can fix if you know what you're doing. But again, a lot easier to do when you're running a game that looks like 2D art instead of a full 3D game from Unreal Engine, which is not, it can be a bit bloated. So, you know, that's an interesting. So I expected it to be a good as much. Oh, this is you can adjust the rollback, by the way, right? Oh yeah, I remember. That was one of the things I love.
You can choose like your delay there.
So I do gotta give it like I don't think it's accent core levels of good, because that's an old ass game from the 90s. But as far as like 2D anime fighters, I think it's right behind Melty Blood. So it's one of the best. But as far as features, I think it's slightly above Melty because it allows you to adjust it in the menu when you're gonna rematch. I thought that was genius. I feel like when it comes to quality of life features, Under Night 100% knocked it out of the park. I really do gotta
easily
say.
yes, easily 100% agree with that.
So like I think there's some stuff in the training thing, like it was almost similar to Street Fighter. Like I want to mention too, we'll get back into like Street Fighter 6 because it's the standard, but they have the whole bars thing. I think the bars thing, not every fighting game needs it. It's super helpful and it's great. I think it also has some quality of life features that are similar to Street Fighter 6, but to be honest, I think training mode has been improving a lot for fighting games. But I feel with fighting games, sometimes they'll take, we'll take the really good reset system from Street Fighter and Tekken, but we're gonna ignore this, or we're gonna have the frame data system from Tekken or Street Fighter, but we're gonna ignore this. It's really weird. I find it weird. And one of the biggest things, one of my friends is the biggest critique that even says, why don't they show hitboxes? Corona, could you confirm if they show hitboxes in Under Night or no?
As of now, no. They do like now have like a frame data display, but they are not showing like the actual like hitboxes themselves.
So we're not 100% there. In my opinion, Killer Instinct has one of the best. Like, it's still king. Like, dude, just the fact that you can show hitboxes. It already has frame data and it has hit. It's like, dude, why do I have to get a mod for BB Tag to see hitboxes? Yeah. And anything else that they add? Maybe even anything new that you might not have seen before? Because again, I feel I like lightly touched it. Can you add on to that?
Oh, definitely. So like this past few weeks, I think almost on a daily basis, on a nightly basis for me, they've been actually showing off like new features that are going to be included in the game. And this kind of like ties in back to the whole topic of like the rollback netcode and like the game as a product and if it's worth like the full price of the game, right? So some of these features that are like they're actually including, we already touched on like rollback, that's now being added to the game, but they're also doing like another feature that is like insane. Very few games have this game, but it's the replay takeover. Like, did you see anything about that yet?
Oh, right. Actually, you know what? You mind explaining that for everyone else?
Sure. So replay takeover is essentially a feature in like fighting games where if you save your replay like of any match in the like online like fight you do, right, you can go back into that replay and at any point in that replay you can pause it. You can go and actually like take the place of your character and go back and like play the next like few frames of the game. So essentially what that lets you do is like lab out like any situations like you were in, any kind of like things you could drop, basically whatever you want. You can like go back into that match as if you were like replaying it yourself and like adjust whatever you wanted to do in there.
Yeah, and Guilty Gear Core was the first one that actually introduced this feature, and one of the big reasons why
it's like the most notable game. As far as I'm aware, the first game that had a replay takeover was like this old like niche like anime fighter called Eternal Fighter Zero.
Oh shit!
But Core plus R is like the most like notable game that has that feature.
Huh.
As I said, like there's very few games only like have this feature. It's only like EFC plus R. I think there's like a Smash kind of game that has. I think it's like Rivals of Ether that has that feature. But personally, I like to call this like feature the feature of the future because it's like so rare and it's like very few games have this. Like they can't even like implement it yet, but Under Night is actually gonna have this feature.
No, that's crazy. For the longest time, I always thought Guilty Gear literally invented it. That's crazy, and it makes sense.
No, there's actually older games.
Because I can see how it's a bit of a demanding feature because you have to go into a replay feature that's separate from actually thing. But at the end of the day, it's just reading inputs. It's just looking at the input history and repeating it.
Correct. Yes.
And, it's also fairly simple to implement, but it just never really occurred. And here's the reason, even you guys who are a bit more casual, because like you literally say there was a spot where you lost and you're like, man, I feel like I could have like done something different. Now you can literally go back to that exact moment and then test your theory. And then realize, oh no, he got me regardless. For at least your lower level players, you realize, like, oh no, there was nothing I couldn't grab him. I couldn't. So I think it's one of the most. I think because labbing can be really hard for beginners, and I think that feature is like a must. I think it's like if you're low or high level, it's perfect. Because at high level, you don't have to spend time re-replicating that scenario, and then as a low level, there's an immediate understanding of what you're exactly labbing. You don't have to pick the character, whatever, and mess with settings you don't understand. No, you literally go replay, go to the spot where you're saltiest about, and be like, I know I can mash DP, you mash DP, and then you're like, oh shit, that worked. There you go, and now you can repeat the scenario, and if you get hit next time, it's on you because you did it again. You get to relive, you rewind time. It's crazy. And I agree. I feel like this feature shit like since that see, and this is the thing about fighting games. I feel like when there's things that happen, is my biggest critique. One fighting game comes up with something like rollback's been around since PS3. Why hasn't every single fighting game since the PS3 had rollback? Oh, that feature,
exactly
this, that, whatever. It's weird. And this is one of the biggest things I want to get about the product critique going back is that I feel fighting games focus too much on things that the hardcore community cares, and they become very blind or narrowed. Because the other thing is, this is why fighting games I would say is like, if you're passionate for it, I think it's $50 is, I feel, almost low for how much actual passion they're putting into this game. Because going back to the story mode, is I actually did finish Chronicles, and I love Under Night's story, right? Like I think as if you're passionate, like this is why I'm gonna separate as a product. It's like it's doing good. Look at all the features they're doing. They're adding things that the community wanted. They added new characters. They even gave new moves. I didn't mess with anything, but I seen some of them like, oh yo, that looks sick. Like if you're already invested in the game, like again, Corona is proving my point. You're gonna be like, oh man, how can this game not be worth it, right? But the thing is, you're looking at it in the lens of like a fighting fighting game player, and people don't realize that why fighting games. That's why I gave them slack in the PS3 era. Why they didn't have as much content? It's not about the content that matter for fighting games, and still to this day it's not. It's about the actual fighting. Like there's a lot of depth to it. Literally, developers spend sometimes even years on how to balance characters, and that's why fighting games, even by other esports standards, is the gold standards of esports. Like I had actually plenty of other shooters, even my cousin, and he's getting into fighting games because of the League fighter, and he's always said he's heard other people, and even for myself, that yeah, no, that you guys have a lot of depth. It's one of the reasons why it's, you know, one of the most fair. It's like, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's BS everywhere, but compared to shooters, you have to admit we are the peak. Like even shooters have gone in the middle, like, no, you guys actually, like, the time you put in is actually worth a good example. Like hackers are a huge problem in all communities, but more so FPSs than fighting games. And two reasons I think is because fighting game players have more dignity. That's a different conversation, but the main one is that because of the depth of fighting games, a hacker can beat most people, but the second it's a pro player, there's so many ways you can actually beat the hacker. And let me make an example, right? Like in a shooter, you could, all it takes is, oh, let me just get a headshot, like Seeds, for example, and then you just die. You have a wall hack, and then you have a hack that tracks them. You're untouchable. Who can beat you? It's impossible. It doesn't matter how good of a player you are, you just immediately lost due to hacks. You know, it's just the nature of how shooters are. It's not like, if it was an arena shooter, it'd be different. And here's my personal experience. I actually beat a hack, you know, when I was getting good at Tekken. So the way this worked is in Tekken, I was playing against this dude. He was standing a bit sus, right? Like I noticed he wasn't Korean backdashing. See, he let that sink in. Even in the beginning, if you're good enough, you can have key tell notes of, okay, this guy's good. He's doing a thing that he's supposed to do with the character, whatever's standard, right? Like, you know, round start backdash, you're like, oh, this guy's good because he's making space and seeing what you're trying to do, right? That's something that we know. But again, a low-level player will never notice this, and in other games, that option doesn't exist. Like in some, I was playing the Naruto games, and I was surprised that the PS2 Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles didn't have a block button. I'm like, wait, this game doesn't have block? You know, again, you don't know it until you're in it. And that's why, you know, again, I want to get back to perspective, but I want to explain how the high end and why to us, like, okay, yeah, Under Night's worth 50. If not, you know, $60 totally worth it, right? Because when it comes as a game and gameplay in depth, very few games can touch it, honestly. Like, that's why I still play fighting games. Like, I play all kinds of games, this and that, but none of them have that itch or that excitement or that level of depth where you could spend hundreds of hours literally just to not be trash. So I didn't say be good. I said not be trash. You know, Naruto, you sit here and mash square, you beat the whole campaign, you go online in a month, you're like, damn, I'm one of the best Naruto players in the world, bro. It's the standard, and that's the average game. Like, most people will play an arena fighter, then you go to a fighting game, and that's why it's notorious hard. It's not that, I don't think fighting games are that hard to get into and be okay. It's just that everything else is so mediocre that when you go jump to a fighting game, it's like, oh. And again, what do their budgets go to? I think Naruto's a good example. Look at how great the cutscenes are. Look at the content they have. You know, all the characters. You know, at a face level, you look at Naruto as a casual, you're like, this is just better. And I'll loop back to that, right? But yeah, fighting games have just an insane amount of depth. Yeah, no. And the funny thing is, mini tangent within the tangent is that this is something I've noticed from all genres. I'll be like, a good example, why don't other games have training modes like fighting games? Like, other game genres are way behind fighting games in terms of training mode. Wouldn't you agree, chrnoicles?
I'd say so, yeah.
But that's the problem, right? Like in terms of deeper stuff, when people do get into it, fighting games are ahead, just straight up in terms of depth, you know, how things work. We're making, even just getting into a match is way faster than a COD, one of the mainstream titles for esports. But when it comes to content, fighting games are lagging far behind. But I'll get into that again because I want to finish my story about the hacker, right? So I was mentioning with, you can tell in the beginning that someone's hacking. Sorry if it's all over because I have ADD. That's how I am. I was playing good, and then I would notice this dude would just start hitting me for random stuff, and it didn't click with me quite why he was being. I was like, oh, I was thinking maybe he was just reading good. But I would do a jab, and if anyone doesn't know anything, jabs are like usually the fastest things in any fighting game. Even Tekken, they're 9 frames. But they're literally unreactable. Like the reaction time is, what is it, like 50, or is it 20 frames, 22 frames or something like that? That's the, like, developers, see, good example, developers keep in mind what is the average human reaction time. The average developer doesn't keep that in mind. They just make moves so slow that even a baby and a grandma can react to something. But fighting games are like, no, we want, if a move's meant to be reactable, we have to make it slower than this. Everything else, like, we can make it a bit lower or whatever, right? Like, they're very self-conscious. Like, there's actually a lot of studying they do, like, even when it comes to artwork, whatever, but that's the whole point, right? Like, that's how I look at all the, people spend time, like Red Dead Redemption, we found out how horse balls work in the snow. That, that attention to detail you see in other games is something superfluous or something in the background, but you're like, oh, that's neat. That neat feature is gameplay in a fighting game. And that's why it's so interesting. And getting back to the jabs, see, this is, again, we're getting into this niche detail that you have to know if you want to be good at high level. I would do a jab, and then he was playing Law, by the way, and then he would do an instant while running 3. For those of you who don't know what that is you have to tap forward 3 times and then press a button. So immediately you can tell this guy's hacking, because it's the same as someone just seeing you around the corner, looking at you in COD, and then shooting right as soon as you pop off. We know that's humanly impossible. No one has that fast of reaction time. No one's going to react to a move that comes out 9/60ths of a second and responds with a move that's, you have to tap forward 3 times, and the move is slow. Like, that move can only punish something if you are like 3 seconds, like literally a whole 3 seconds, let's say you press a button and you're recovering in 3 seconds, that's like 3 times 60 is like what, 180 frames or something. You need that much time for this move to punish. But no, that means that the second I press jab, that means the first frame he did a move that requires you double tap forward 3 times and then press a button. So it was perfect. Like, it's the perfect window, and it's impossible. He has to read, but you would see him dash forward before I do the jab, and I tested it. I did it again. I'm like, oh, he's hacking. So what I did, like I said, look at that, I was able to recognize, instead of people like, oh, he's just doing this random, you know, most people wouldn't recognize it, but because of the in-depth knowledge that the game has, you know, all fighting games, this is standard, by the way, this is not unique to Tekken, this is a universal thing. So what I did is I applied my common knowledge, like, wait a second, if he's doing that move, I know a weakness it has besides, you know, this. I literally Korean backdash all across the stage. I did the jab again on purpose, and again, now it solidified my point because it's full screen. He does the move, but because he's so far, he lands right in front of me, and I hit him with arc blast and comboed him, and I did it 3 times until he finally gave up, and I saw him take control, and I was like, oh, okay, now he's trying to play the, and then I just fucked him up, and then he didn't run it back. And let that sink in. Look at how you can actually deal with a hacker in a fighting game, because there's so much depth that you can have all the hacks you want. It's not saving you. It just is not. And that's where fighting games, to me personally, I always don't feel bad when I put money into them because I'm in it for the gameplay, and the gameplay's peak. In my opinion, fighting games have some of the most peak gameplay, right? So I think in terms of like a fighting game, Under Night does not disappoint for us fans. I think we can both agree with that, but I think where we separate is when I mean a product is, going back to what I was making with Need for Speed, is that what does it compare to other games? Like you said, it has the essential features of, you know, survival mode, this and that. But what if I told you that I agree with most people, like, I don't give a shit about those modes. Like I saw people were upset that Street Fighter 5 didn't have arcade mode. I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck about arcade mode. I'm like, I want a full-fledged ass story mode. Like, give me something like Naruto Storm. And most people are gonna think like that. And good example, like, look at what happened with the 3D rush when PS1 came out. People looked at 2D games like Castlevania and even fighting games like, oh, that's old. And to this day, fighting games have suffered to this day, believe it or not, because they don't have the full 3D. People think, oh, it's old. And I know, because I had this perception, and it's no different with fighting games. I'm like, I never really cared for survival mode, arcade mode. Like, no, I'm like, no, we have a modern rendition of it. It's called story mode, and make it something. And again, Street Fighter 6, I feel really fucked me over with that, because now I have a new standard that Street Fighter 6 set. It's like, yo, can you give me, like, you don't have to be Street Fighter 6, but give me something that isn't just Mortal Kombat, Tekken, cutscene fight. Like, no, please, I want to actually have something to experience the gameplay with the story. And I will say, again, where Under Night does do good, I think, in my opinion, I think Under Night Story has one of the most compelling and interesting fighting game stories ever, honestly.
It is actually, yeah, full on, like, visual novel there.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think that's opinionated at that point. I think that's opinionated. Some people like visual novels, some don't. I think it'd be fine if there was like a really good mode for people to actually do something. Like, this is my solution, right? I don't care about having arcade or survival, but give me something like, or if anything, do have a survival mode, but make it interesting. Make it like Abyss mode from Blaze Blue. Like, that was super good. Or even Accent Core had a really good, like, give me a reason to actually keep doing, like, oh, upgrade. Even Persona 4 Arena had a good survival mode. Like, still have the mode, but do something interesting that isn't just the same thing you did your last time. Like, this is the problem with fighting games, is they spend too much time innovating on the things that only people like me and you care, and not what the average person cares. Like, the average person opens up the menu, they're never gonna get into it as much as we do, and they just go, okay, what can I do, right? That's the immediate thing. They see arcade and survival, and if all they played was mediocre ones, like, or no, doesn't matter. They played something mediocre or good. Good example, 2 of the best arcade modes I've ever played, Tekken 6, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. To this day, no modern fighting game has touched their arcade mode. I don't know what it is, they just haven't. I can't explain it. Survival modes, one of the best has to be Abyss mode, and the same with Accent Core. And to this day, I'm like, there is no survival mode that touches how fun those two are. So even when you play a good survival mode or arcade mode, you have something to compare it to. See, going back to the conversation on last gen, now you just get disappointed. And everyone's played enough stuff to where you played, so let that sink in. There are 3 versions you can come from. Either you played a good arcade or survival, played what the standard is, or you come from a game where, like, oh, we don't have that stuff. We have actual fucking game mode. You're gonna be disappointed either way. And that's, to me, where I was disappointed. Because I want to speak to the average person, the actual casual person, like the people, you know, because at the end of the day, people like Chrony are the minority, and even I'm a minority. People who are at least mid-level at the goddamn game. The majority, y'all motherfuckers out here pressing square when someone's +10 and wondering why you're getting hit. You're laughing because you know I'm right. You know, and that's where I'm really disappointed. But like, what is there, if you're okay with the standard, is solid. Like I said, the story mode, it's not for anything. Like I said, I would have been happy to give me a visual novel mode. It's not for everybody. And then give me like a good offline content mode. Like, good example, the Idol Showdown game. That offline mode is super fucking good. And a lot of the people really enjoyed it. Even I seen just a clip earlier, the VTuber going hard at it. Because at the end of the day, not everybody wants to play online, and not everyone's super competitive. You have to give something for us to do offline. And in that sense, we have to agree, like, outside of the story mode, like, it just sucks. I hate saying this, but it is true. Kind of like turn-based games. I love turn-based games. I love visual novels. But statistically, they're just not for everyone. So I have to say that, you know, it's kind of a miss, even though I really love Under Night's story. And Guilty Gear did okay. They had their story. Like I said, for me, it would be optimal. Give me the visual novel or whatever your story, like, or even like Mortal Kombat, but they at least give me a good, solid mode for me to spend my time to sink my teeth into, right? Like, I feel like it's only 2 modes, but story, gameplay separate if you don't know how to put them together like Street Fighter 6 did. That's why Street Fighter 6 won Game of the Year awards, because like, when's the last time we even had like something that was, Tekken 6, where we actually get to run around and you know, you get to explore and it's the story. I love that. Believe it or not, that's how I got into Tekken. Let that sink in. That's how I got into Tekken over to Soul Calibur. So I'm living proof because I was a casual. To me, arcade mode is only so interesting. You could play it once and then you're kind of done, right?
Yeah.
Especially, and arcade mode for Soul Calibur 4 was actually pretty good in my opinion. And it was interesting, it had Star Wars characters, but I found it just more engaging to fully move around in a 3D environment. Then the second I fight, it kind of tilts and then, oh, cool. And the controls are exactly the same. You know, like, oh, okay, I can, and that's how I literally learned Lars. Lars is one of my favorite characters to this day. I learned most of his basic stuff from the story mode. And I think that's why I got into Tekken, because I was able to scrub it out. You know, I played a little bit of this, but I got used to his base move sets. So now when I hop online and play or versus survival, I can experiment and then start discovering combos. And I think that's another reason why we need an actual offline mode and why Street Fighter 6 is so great. Street Fighter 6 went above and beyond. They didn't even give you tutorials and shit. I think the pacing isn't the best in how it puts some of the stuff, and I think it gets a bit annoying, and it puts some tutorials too late. That's my critique of that, right? See, like, I even have critiques, but Street Fighter 6 did such a better, like, in my opinion, Tekken 6 is the second best story mode standard that all fighting games should strive, and then Street Fighter 6 is number 1, but they're still not even perfect. Like, that's thinking, like, we're still lacking behind other fighting games. Like, even something like The Legend of Zelda, it doesn't have the depth of what fighting games do, but it's the gold standard of how you should have a game. Oh, here you have a sword, you now use a sword. You now use a sword for a puzzle. Once you get used to it, it introduces a new item to you. You know, like Zelda teaches you the core of how to play the game, and before you know it, you go to Ganondorf, the final boss, and now you have to use every single tool you've ever used to beat that boss. And that's something we've had since the N64. Why do fighting games not have this? Again, you don't have to be full 3D, but at least give me like a mode like Embassy, but 2D. You know, that's just something I guess maybe it's too much of a high standard, you know, but that at the end of the day, that's the standards I have as an average consumer and as a normie, right? Like, that's my normie mindset. And again, that's how people look at it. They look at a visual novel, they're like, wow, this is weak, right? They like, more people would be happy if they had cutscenes, anime cutscenes, which would be cool. Like, if it did that, it would be high standard. But the thing is, anime cutscenes are super fucking expensive. So that is asking a lot. But let's be honest, that would make it a lot better, because some people just, and this opinion, I have to say that in that sense, it's just an opinion. Some people like turn-based RPGs, some people don't, and it just sucks. To me, I would rather it give what is a mass appeal, because I want the game to succeed. But like opinionatedly, you know, no, it's good. Like I said, I think Under Night has a better story and more concise. If anything, it subverts expectations. Like I mentioned in my video that it's super anime, like very generic, but once you get into it, they actually subvert expectations. I don't want to ruin it too much, but some of the characters you think, oh, they're this and that, and then you go into like, oh, they're just normal fucking people. Like, it's really fucking weird, and it actually makes the story just better. It's weird. It gives you the aesthetics of anime and even the lore, but then the way they are, and this is a huge pet peeve of someone anime, and that's why I don't like one of the characters, the new characters, is like, they're like real people. They're characters. They're not just archetypes, and that's one of the things I love about Under Night, you know. But story mode wise, I think opinionatedly, it's peak. I think it's one of the best next to the Street Fighter comics. That's what got me into the story. Street Fighter oddly fails in game to tell its story as great as the comics do, which I feel like someone shouldn't have to go out of. I feel like stuff like that, like good example, Halo, the main story is in the games, but if you want more lore, you go read the books. I think that's a good example of how to do it. Whereas with Street Fighter, if you want the core experience to experience the lore, you have to read the comics. But yeah, no, and that's what I want to get at, as what I mean as a product. Hopefully I was able to convey myself enough of why I am disappointed with Under Night, just because I do want to see it succeed, and I feel they should be more focused on seeing what the average consumer wants over what the core audience wants. Yeah, we get fucked over. I know it sucks, but look at Street Fighter 6 is a good example. They added mounting controls. A lot of people are pissed about them, but at the end of the day, I look at it as the lesser of two evils. I'm okay with losing, like, even Strive. Look at Strive. Nobody knew Guilty Gear existed till Strive. I am okay with losing some stuff that I even personally love about a game if it means more people get into it, because at the end of the day, it means that the sequel will just re-add features that we're already used to. You know, I mean, what are your thoughts, or something you want to say as far as what I said about it as Under Night as a product, and seeing that it's different, right? Like, I feel we were looking at it in two different ways. You mean as a product that's actually like someone who's really into it, features and all this stuff, but I feel that's stuff that only a handful of people touch. Like the majority, like I'll say 80% of those people won't even touch that, right? They don't even know what Under Night, the rollback is. They won't even fiddle with that, right? But they look at the base level. Oh wow, I don't give a shit about arcade. I don't give a shit about survival. I don't really play visual novels, but maybe someone might actually like it. But they're like, I don't think that makes this game worth, you know, $50. I'm like, bro, this is I mean, yeah. What are your...
I think as a whole, like I kind of agree with you. Like, there's definitely like two ways to look at it as a product in terms of like the competitive, like the more competitive, like the more casual player. As I said before, I think as like a product, it does have everything I personally think is like kind of the required minimum for a fighting. But you're definitely making good points on like the added content that would be more appealing to the casual players. Like we look at some other games, like most recently like Ground Blue and what they're doing in terms of like their lobbies that are like avatar stuff, like the whole side games they have with that. It's a definitely way more like interesting and like appealing towards the casual players that aren't too like deep into the fighting game itself. So I think in terms of that regard, like it's very fair what you've been saying and how like as a product it's like still kind of behind other games, other genres. But for me, as like a more competitive player of the game, I think that the fact that they're focusing on like a lot of the aspects that are like useful to the competitive players, like having like a better like netcode, having better like more training features, I think that's overall like a plus for me. But
yeah, no, you're right. Like I said, for us, and that's what sucks. I think at this point, I think what I realized from this conversation is that I think it comes down to people like me and you. Like, I mean, we're doing this podcast right now. It's up to the FGC to help convince people. And I've seen a lot of videos. Maybe you've seen them like, oh man, now's a good time to play fighting games. It's up to us to release good content, and even memes. It's one of the reasons I do meme videos to help people get into the genre and realize why fighting games are good. Like, good example, you can spend 100 hours in a fighting game. Here's the difference why even I still think fighting games, again, I step at a good let's compare it to what I think is a weak waste of 100 hours. Let's look at garbage games like Destiny or even some turn-based RPGs. I love turn-based RPGs. Their biggest weakness is they're too long. You spend 100 hours wasting your time. I'm sorry, you just grinding. In some case, it's boring. There's nothing, like, once you play a turn-based game, you're like, okay, I get it. You do not master a turn-based fighting game. Anyone can. You can sit here and be like, oh, boss fight, go to sleep, wake up, go to breakfast, go to work, come back, and the boss is still waiting for you to take your turn. That is an immaculately low skill ceiling. Like, that is the peak. Like, I even said this, RPGs are for people who can't play video games. Games like Call of Duty are for people who don't want to think. That's, for RPGs, difficulty is in, you have to think, right? And that's why COD players, oh, what, I have to take turns, oh, I don't want to look at stats, I just want to go brr. And then an RPG player, oh, I don't have good hand-eye coordination, I'm gonna go play Persona or something. I'm insulting both player bases. See, we're keeping it equal here. But it's true. I mean, just look at the people who play both. You got the dude who I can beat up by looking at him, and then I got the other dude who I could tell him to walk off a cliff and tell him, hey, look, there's $10 out there, and he's gonna fall for it. You got the dum-dum, and then you got the just the weak dude. I mean, sorry, I don't want to go too at you guys, but my whole point is that with fighting games, you don't spend 100 hours because you're grinding something stupid. You are spending 100 hours on quality content that is, and it's you playing the game, you getting better. That is where the content of the game is, and people do not
absolutely
see that.
And that's like where something like a fighting games like offer, like to me, like no other genre really offers is like the feeling of improvement, like the like basically the unlimited like skill ceiling. Like you can play and get as good as you want to, like as much as you can, like push the character, push the system mechanic, and like you will 100% see like results in your gameplay against like other people.
Yeah, no, and I think it goes back to too why fighting games. Like I know a fairly well-known Japanese YouTuber, and she gave into that she loves fighting games for what they are, but she's always had this beef where people who kind of give passes, even talked about Street Fighter, like she's happy getting good, like she likes the progression of going from like, oh, Hadouken to being okay, but she doesn't care about getting past, and I think most people don't, and that's where even we can get a bit blindsided. It's like, yeah, you know what, it is good, but I think most people reach a point where like, okay, I know how to not drop a Hadouken and do a combo, and then they're happy with that, and that's how I've personally reached that point with a lot of fighting games, actually. Like I've reached that personal point, so a lot of this extra stuff means little to nothing at this point because there's just too many fighting games. And what was I trying to get at with this? And that's the other thing too, is where the other crux of the content is for playing online, and that's what it sucks. Like Under Night, you have to already like fighting games or really wanting to get into, or the best play with friends, and I think that's where its other strength is. Like the quality of playing Under Night is great, and believe it or not, Under Night's actually one of the easier fighting games to get into. That's another huge strength about Under Night. Like it actually has auto combos.
It's pretty accessible, yeah.
Like we just forget about it because we don't use that shit. You know, we ain't using no auto combos. What do you think this is? But yeah, no, the online is super good, and then you could have lobbies, you know, and they function. Like you can play your homie from like New York and have no problem. That's another huge strength about it. But the thing is, like I mentioned back, as the casual consumer, you're never gonna reach that depth. You know, you'll be, like I said, you playing from the beginning to the mid, it's super enjoyable, but the game doesn't give you an incentive. Like it doesn't give you a real outlet. You know, and yeah, you play with your friends, but if you guys play casually, how do you really improve? And then if your other friends only play because you have it, how do you really improve? You don't get to that crux that makes it entertaining, right? Like, and I mentioned some people just don't want to play online. They purely play offline. Like even to this day, there are people who only play fighting games offline. Like that started since Street Fighter 2. Majin Obama's mentioned it. Like he knows a dude that's like, oh yeah, no, I literally just don't play against other people, like at all. Some people just do not like the competitive nature in the slightest of fighting games. And it's like, oh, that's weird, but that's the point. It's like, yeah, that is the point. But when you stop and think about it, the initial point of a fighting, everyone has this gimmick, right? Why do you play Street Fighter? Like, yo, that dude looks cool. I want to fucking punch and throw, and that's it. That's the main reason. Like, that's why I got into like anything. Like, why did I get into COD? Pew pew pew. Why did I get into an RPG? I'm like, oh, you know, I looked at the gimmick of turn-based. I'm like, oh, that's neat. I can take my sweet time. And then I look at the characters. Oh, that looks cool. And then I hear the story. I'm like, I'm invested. I call it the trifecta. And in fighting games, cool looking character, anime aesthetic, boom, that's one. Oh, look at those cool fucking moves, number two. And then when you start to play, you're like, oh, this game feels sick. And now I'm hooked. And it's the rule of three. You know, for some people, you know, like there you go. That's why they get into it. That's why they even got into it. That's why they play Under Night and Street Fighter. But they already got their three. And then they have what they do and don't like. Like for me, I has to have good online, or else I can't play because I've gotten too good. Like I can't stand bad online. But most average people can be like, yeah, I'll play Wi-Fi. They don't care as long as they're mashing and having fun. And then some people have an ego, some people don't. Other people just get too stressed. Maybe a good example, I believe it was Pikachu Akuma and even Des don't play competitive. And there's some of the best. Like one of them is one of the best Earthquake players online, and one of them is a combo god. If you don't know Des,
yeah, Des. Oh man.
But from what I've heard, I mean, I could be wrong, but it is something that is we call them lab monsters, or even just the indoor basement dweller, is that they're super good, but they cannot handle the stress of playing tournaments. Even Maximilian, he used to play competitive, but he realized at a certain point it was affecting his health and he just couldn't handle the stress. And I was like, and you know what? As someone who plays competitive, why am I so dominant? I don't get stressed in a public setting. I don't. And that's a huge factor. So I totally get that online for some people is not going to be the selling point when that's one of the best selling points of Under Night, you know? And that's the biggest thing I always think about that. I think about the average person, and even like the nooblets. Like I said, I've been teaching fighting games to beginners, so I've gotten very familiar, and I always remember my roots. That's the thing I feel too many with FGC heads, even veterans, a lot, majority, they don't remember where they came from, right? Like not everyone was good when they first started. And why did you initially, like, again, I got into MVC and fighting games because I love Wesker and I played Resident Evil, and Wesker's sick as fuck in MVC. And I grew to like it for what it was, and I had the requirements at that early point. I don't mind if it's bad online, you know. I don't mind getting clapped because I'm not a bitch. But I did have a beef, and again, this is one thing where I feel Under Night high level. I mentioned I don't like watching it competitively, or I think it's garbage. I would like to actually engage in back and forth. I don't want to get touched and then never be able to touch the controller again. That's whack. And some people are masochists and think that's cool, but I mean, power to you. There's a reason no one watches MVC and GG, and we all watch Street Fighter and Tekken. Even though Tekken is kind of starting to be NBC, but that's beside the point. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on to that. That's my whole conversation about the product, and I think I've covered my bases on that and the whole prospect. And of course, saying that the story mode is super good. It's just, if you're into it, 100% to me, it is worth it. Like, it's just super fucking good. But then at the end of the day, what's stopping you from looking at a YouTube Let's Play? You know, because you're not really playing anything, so I guess that's another point against Under Night. But again, that's fair. But again, you pay if you're dedicated. You pay so you can support the developer and they can make it. But to me, I want to speak my words. I'm like, I'm sorry, no, I want more. I'll give you money. I'm gonna buy Under Night too, just because I love Under Night casually. But I'm not paying you $50, dog. I'm giving you 25, bro. That's just how I feel personally. Especially, plus I'm broke. I'm broke as hell. I'm like everybody else, bro. I can barely save $35 each month. But yeah. Your thoughts, Chrony? I think like the only thing we kind of like haven't exactly like touched on it, or some of the other features that are being added to the game. Like there's quite a bit more. We already talked about like rollback. We talked about like the replay rewind, the replay takeover. But yeah, there's like, I think we also like did mention a little bit about the frame data display. That is something that's also being added. They're also like adding other kinds of displays that like other games like don't have. Okay. Yeah, they're actually adding this. So this was like not in the like previous games, any of the previous games in, like the series, right? So besides the frame data display, they're also adding like damage scaling display, which is something like once again like a lot of other games like don't do yet. It actually shows you like how much each hit is like scaling within the combo. That's like pretty cool information to be having. Like you don't have to have like any mod to like show that or anything like that. It's just like built into the game now. Built into the game now, right? Has any other fighting game
so that's a pretty cool feature. I think some of them have, but usually most if you wanted that in the kind of game, like you have to put a mod for it. The next feature that I wanted to bring up is like one that I don't think most have actually had. This is like the save state feature. So now within training mode, you can like do a combo, right? If you like drop in, if you're trying to ground out a combo, but you keep dropping it at the certain point, you can like pause like the training mode right there, and then create a save state so you can continue to combo whatever part you're dropping, having an issue with. You can go back, continue it, and keep practicing from there.
Actually, yeah, no, that's actually super. As someone who does like to lab, that's super fucking useful. Holy shit.
Exactly, right. And as far as I'm aware, I don't think like too many like actual like big releases have had this feature. I know stuff like on Fightcade you can kind of like do that with, but full releases, like full like back games, like I don't think like they've had this feature like really ever.
Yeah, nope. It's my first ever hearing of it. See, if I hear it first, then it's the first time for me, right? Like if another fighting game came out of it, it was either too niche or obscure to even, you know. And at the end of the day, that's just how it works. Like as far as I know, like, oh, fucking, you know, let's say if I never play rollback and that I play Undernight. Oh, it's the first game that has rollback. As far as I know, it's the first game that has rollback. Oh, is there anything else?
Like the only other feature, there's one more feature. Like as I said before, like basically this whole past week they've been like kind of showing off like new features like every day. This last one is like another like recent one. It's like a reaction speed, like a mini game. So if like you have like an issue like taking any kinds of throws, you can like actually like have like an actual like reaction speed like indicator now. So you can like practice your teching and see like how fast or how slow you are with it.
Oh shit, damn dude, the upgrade. You're not lying. They're going real, because I didn't know about any, again, because I looked at it casually, whatever, and I just hopped on. And mind you, I do play in this, so I'm like, I would consider my mid, right? Like there's the low, the high, and the mid. I'd consider myself the mid. I didn't know about any of this shit, and like I had no real need because I was like, oh, I just want to play online, have fun, and I was like, it's basically just like I just came in and assuming like it doesn't have anything special because the game just doesn't indicate anything, because you see the menu and you look like, oh, it's just the same shit as the last time.
Right.
Like, but the only reason I knew about the rollback thing because it was right there in the select and the rematch. Like I was like, yo, let's go, but like everything else, it's like shit, man, it's the same thing from last year. Fuck.
Yeah, to be fair, like all of these features are kind of like more geared toward the competitive players, right? Like people who actually want to like be improving at the game. And I think that's like a good starting point for like a lot of like people who are again like more casual, like the more casual side of the game. They can like have these like features now and start using them themselves to like just like improve. Because a lot of these things were like things like they were just like too much trouble to worth, like too much trouble to try to go and like emulate yourself or like set up, right?
Right.
So
No,
a lot
I
of
agree.
these features, again, even though they're catering to like the more like hardcore like player base, they're still like fantastic features to me, right?
No. I think they're, if anything, necessary, and for sure, even for low players, like I mentioned with the other one that you said, like, oh yeah, no, like the replay feature, and even that one with the combo. I think those are two features that beginner players absolutely love. But the thing is, because they don't exist, and as far as they know, it's impossible. Like I thought they were impossible to do, but when I stopped, I think, oh, it's not that hard to implement. They don't even know this stuff exists. And I feel like another huge problem is that Street Fighter did this pretty okay. That it has a dedicated menu to stuff, and it tells you, oh, you could go do this, and let the Street Fighter 6 is hand holding you on, oh, you could do this in training mode, and even in the training mode, oh, there's a basic setting that already has everything set up for you, right? Let that sink in. And there are people, I've ran into streams where some of the beginners don't know about this stuff. Maybe it could be a part of their end, but Under Night, like these features are good for beginner or pro. But at that point, it's how good does the game convey that it has these features, and how does it know? Like, because at the end of the day, I think every beginner wants and would love to use this feature, and at that point, it's how can the game best tell you to find these features or that it's even in there? Because Street Fighter 6 tried, and it seems that for everyone that did do the tutorial thing or is in the training mode and like, oh, okay, like it's not hard. Like if you know to look for it, it's not hard. Like Street Fighter 6 did a great job. I mean, exactly. I'd even argue Under Night, but like, what can we do to get someone to look out for it? At that point, who knows? It's a developer question, right? Maybe it's just up to the player at that point. Like, I feel like if it's a mentality thing, like, because I will say the person who I did see it is not the best example because he's a bit of a scrub. So maybe like I said, maybe Street Fighter 6 did nail it. I just got to pay attention to, it's a mentality thing. Do you actually go out? You don't just, I'm going to play online. Oh, I'm having this problem. I'm just going to be ignorant and just keep doing this. Oh, I don't need to lab this. Or they look at a YouTube video. Because this is his problem. He'll look at a YouTube video and never think, oh, and he'll hop on and do like a combo or something, but then think that's all he needs to use training mode for, right? Whereas other people, they're like, at least, oh, let me see what other features although they could just pause, right? Because they're practicing a combo, and they'll pause and be like, oh, you could practice how to go against like drive impact. Oh, that's great. And again, Street Fighter 6 did that. And then Under Night, the fact that it has something that'll even tell you specific timing, and that's great because people don't know this stuff. And the fact that the game has something built in already to be like, oh, look at your reaction time, and then throw it and like, oh, they themselves can put together. It's like, I'm doing this too late. Oh, I'm doing this too early. Now it makes sense. Like they don't even have to put a giant wall of text. I feel like walls of text are way less efficient. I feel like these actual modes are way better at helping new players improve, because they get to actually engage and figure it out themselves instead of just like, I don't know what it is. I'm a gamer. Like I said, I play all kinds of games, and just something about a wall of text being put in front of you just makes you not want to. I don't know why. It's super weird. Like story, sure, no problem. But the second, okay, I'm trying to learn, like you just kind of want to figure things out. And that's something I was even liking about like me getting nostalgic and playing Resident Evil 5 and Undercover. I'm like, damn, every time I had to do something, there was not a single wall of text, and if there was any text, it was an option to read it, and it was something about lore, not even about gameplay. Like it lets you figure things out, And then if it did for Resident Evil 5, for some reason, it gave you a tutorial on how to use melee, but like halfway through the game, I was like, that's weird. But maybe this is for people who didn't know. Like I feel like like a reminder or something. But yeah, like games should intuitively be able to teach you. And I think for fighting games, one of the best things they can do is in the training mode. But at that point, I can't help but wonder. I think this is just a universal problem, not even just Under Night. How do we get them to realize that that training mode and like not even like tutorial? Because nobody likes that word tutorial. I feel like good fighting game can have a great training mode and not a tutorial, and people would learn better from that than just having a training mode, right?
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair take.
Because in honesty, like it's just nobody likes it. Like just nobody likes to be told or taught something. And it's just a common thing in gaming. They'd rather just learn it themselves. And at that point, it's a developer. How can we sneakily teach them? And usually the first level is a tutorial, but Under Night doesn't have a real game, and that's what I want to get back at too as a content. It's like, that's why people never reach that point. They never have something to get them used to the buttons, you know, as practice, and then something slowly teaching them mechanics, and then like, oh man, and then telling them, oh, now that you beat the game, and then let's say you beat the game, let's pull a Call of Duty, right? Like, oh, it puts you into zombies, right? So once you beat the story mode for Black Ops and World at War, and now you start playing, and then we have people who are mad dedicated into zombies. Look at how they transition them into like hardcore zombies players, or even multiplayer. Why doesn't fighting games have something like that? Oh, at the end, and it just puts you into training mode, and then it has some things like, oh, practice this, that, and it gives you like a ranking as a bonus or points for like some mode for the survival mode. And look at that, now you gave them an incentive to actually be in training mode. Something as obscure as, oh, you can unlock a hat for abyss mode or something. Like, it's stupid, I know it seems like it, but people give a lot of fucks about that. Just look at Fortnite, all these outfits, they do nothing to make you better at the game, but you're like, man, I want that thing, and you're willing to do anything to get that dumb thing. And that is just a suggestion, hopefully, for when Under Night 3 comes out for you developers. Just force them into training mode after they beat the story mode, and tell them you can't play any mode until you beat these little mini quests. And again, I feel it's more intuitive to have, say, your tutorial in the setting of training mode, because now when they want to do something, oh, I need to practice, they'll go to training mode, and then they'll practice. Let's say they add drive impact for some reason in Under Night. They practice drive impact, and they're like, oh, you know what? I want to practice throw teching, and they can do throw teching. And again, they know where to look, and in there's a wealthy of options that are super well advanced that you just discussed, and it's right there. Now they're actively looking out for it. I mean, that's just, I don't know, it's a random tangent of how to help improve fighting games, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just someone who happens to also be developing for a fighting game, and I'm 100% definitely not doing this in my game, you know,
Oh, definitely not, right?
But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? What do you think about that? I mean, I like your critique if you think it's better or how we can better improve that, right?
I know that's like definitely fair. That's, I know like training modes, like, or rather like the tutorials can like vary like quite a bit between like fighting games. Like some have like better tutorials and like training modes than others. I want to see like a good example of like a good like tutorial is like Guilty Gear like Xers. Like that game has like you like pop balloons and stuff and all that, right? That's kind of like one of the go-to examples of like a good like tutorial for a fighting game. So in terms of like Under Night, yeah, the tutorial is like a bit of like just walls of text essentially, like to have you practice like what they're telling you. But to be fair to the game, it is like definitely one of the most like robust like tutorials out of like any fighting game.
Exactly right.
The way I know like a game's like tutorial is like very good and like in depth is if it teaches you how to OS, how to do option selects, right? And Uni's like tutorial actually like goes into like that kind of depth, like into that high level kind of like techniques that you like are wanting, like you're gonna want to be doing like once you get like more competitive into the game. Yeah, that's like a huge plus for me for like more competitive players. Again, it's an entryway for like more casual players, but it's kind of like just like right there in the main menu if like you ever want to see it. With the training mode options, it's also like not obscure. You're like, kind of like touching on that, how like some of the Street Fighter like 6 stuff are like kind of like almost like hidden if you want to try to find them. It's a bit troublesome, right? But with Uni, it's just like right there in the training mode. Just like explore the options, just like look down the different tab, like you'll find it like no problem.
Right. But like I said, my whole thing is like most people want to get into training mode, and that's the thing too. Going back a bit too, like it's funny because Street Fighter 6 and Uni have different approaches. Like they're both, like I said, robust tutorials. Like it's funny how Under Night covers option selects and even some other stuff that's more mechanical. Street Fighter 6 truly focuses on system mechanics and characters, and I think to the equal amount of Under Night. But it's weird is that, and I think Under Night does. I feel like Under Night, I don't know, it is a wall of text, but like again, it's super good. Like, and that's what I mean. Like it is good, but the problem is like it just doesn't appeal to most people. No one wants to read it, right? Like I actually learned most of my stuff because of the thing, right? And another thing I think Under Night does good is when you teaches your character, it teaches like, oh, you know, your character is actually really good for counter hitting. Like I didn't know that until I read the text. I was like, wait, what? That's a thing? Like you start, but in Street Fighter, I think does this better for characters because you have to play your character's thing to see it. But in Street Fighter, it's like, would you like to learn more about this character? And it actually shows you examples, like a replay. Like in that sense, Street Fighter takes Under Night out of the water. Since 5, they'd be like, oh, here's a character guide, and it even says this is good even if you want to face them, because most people don't, you know, in Under Night you're like, that's because you want to play with that character, right? And some people aren't tempted to play with that character. But in Street Fighter, there's a whole category, like just section dedicated right there. Even like, oh, you go to training, it's like training, trials, and then tutorials, and then there's system, and it has like beginners tutorials, and then from there it's like, oh, go to character specifics. Like the tutorials for the game and the mechanics is separate from the character ones. Like it's very obvious, and in there it goes, oh, would you like to learn about Luke, this and that? And I thought Street Fighter 6 now 100% knocked it out of the park. The fact that, and even then it sets it in levels from beginner to intermediate to veteran. I was like, that's genius. So then they know what to focus on here. It's beginner, like, oh, did you know Ryu has 3 Hadoukens? One goes mid here, and you're good. If it's this close, you can punish. And then that's it. It covers, and it shows you examples. Would you like to try it out? Like, and again, there's a video example. And as someone as a teacher, I've got a lot into this. The whole thing about it, visual, auditory learning, it's BS. All people are all 3. People need to be able to hear it, see it, and experience it to properly learn it. And Street Fighter's video tutorials for characters absolutely knocked this concept out of the park. And I will say, that's one of the biggest reasons I had an easy time learning every matchup in Street Fighter. Like, I got to master rank within the first month, and one of the huge things, learning curves, is you have to learn matchups. But the fact I was able to get in, I even learned some things. I'm like, oh wait, that's safe. Oh wait, that's negative. You know, and then like you get to practice it right there on the spot and be like, oh shit, yeah. And it just clicks, you know? And I feel that's something that every fighting game should copy, and Under Night has that, but the problem is it's only text. There is no voice, and it does have example. I'll give it that. It does have examples. That's where the only thing it's missing is, yeah, it would help if we had Linne, or even when they were, and the thing is, if they had wealthy of options, it's superfluous, but hearing your favorite character can help you learn something. Heck, I've seen a trend of YouTube videos where there's inspirations and they'll put like Batman or insert favorite character's voice, and it's actually helping. Some people say like, I know it's dumb, it's a made-up character, but something about hearing my favorite character's voice tell me this inspirational speech hit me harder than, you know, let's say for example, my dad saying this speech, you know, with this kind of, I mean, it's a whole different thing, but that's the thing. Just sometimes even, that's why one of the things when I teach fighting game players, if they're new, I always like to give a little synopsis and show that I'm good, because you have to solidify in their mind that you're someone that can be respected. It's a voice that they should respect. Why do you think some kids don't listen to their parents? Because they have no respect for them. If you can establish that baseline of respect, or in this case, oh, I love Hyde, and you get the story, you have a baseline respect for them. So when he says something, you're gonna listen. But if you hear it from an annoying ass character, let's say you can't stand Linne, you hear a voice, you don't want to hear a goddamn thing she's trying to say. So the tutorial will never work. So I think having an option of your favorite characters voice lines in the tutorial would be one step up, right? That's just a suggestion. And again, it's funny because Under Night has the baseline for having one of the best tutorials. Like I said, everyone was like, oh, they praised it, and so did I, but even I realized like, man, this is a bit too much tech, you know? All it's missing is give us the interactivity of the Guilty Gear tutorials, and then just a bit some of the features from the Street Fighter 6, and then we'd have one of the greatest ways for people to get into fighting games, you know? This is just
that's why I was kind of like mentioning it. It's like still surprised to me to this day where like some games just like are missing the basic kinds of moves, like survival and time attack. But what we're talking about right now is like basically all quality of like life features that like every fighting game like should be having, but surprisingly like just like don't for whatever reason, right? Like Under Night, like as you said, it's mostly just text. I think they give like the next game gives you like a little info about the move with the new displays, but yeah, just like actual previews of the moves, like actual like characters like doing the moves and everything like that. Like that's just something that's not in the game yet.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing I want to get, I guess, to final that we can agree to disagree, but I think we've come to the conclusion that I want to say is if you care about just very baseline stuff, like, I mean, I definitely do a lot, right? Like if you care about having actual full story mode, full content, and another thing I think fighting games are lacking is, you know, where's the cooperative aspect? I think that's the last one I want to say. But I mean, you only have Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and I feel fighting games just had a 4-player mode. Mortal Kombat did it. Like, even if it's broken, it doesn't matter. Like, just give me something fun. Like, we need something fun, and that's not gonna appeal to a lot of people. So I feel that if you look at this as the average consumer and you want to actually have a reason to play, get better, like you're not a person who could be self-motivated, you want a reason to get better, you want a cool mode, you want to be able to play with friends, like, hey, yo, let's go play Under Night. Crony and Greatest are playing, let's go face them and see how good we do. Like, there's no mode for that. There's no mode for them to have that fun mode, like, yo, 2v2s. Doesn't matter how balanced it is, like, we just want a 2v2. Right? But fighting games are too focused in balancing. That's what I'm saying. So I still stick by what I said in my review, that if you don't have a lot of money, you're not going to get your money's worth if you just want to play an actual full game. But if you really are already getting into fighting games, I highly recommend Under Night. Like, if you basically what I'm saying is if you do buy 50, you pay 50 for Under Night, you are getting your money's worth. Only if you are willing to actually get into it. And I mean, hopefully this conversation was able to give you enough that you're not getting ripped off. It is feature rich, my bad, as a fighting game. Like when you're actually playing it, because at the end of the day, you know, people, let's say you play your offline content, it happened with MVC. Once I got done with it, then I spend even more time just focusing on the core content of the game. In that sense, Under Night's probably one of the best fighting games you've ever had in years. Like the core game is super fun. Like I said, it's one of my favorite fighting games to play, right? You don't have to play competitive, but in that sense, I'd say it's up there behind Street Fighter. Wouldn't you agree? As terms of like actual fighting game, like all the features and everything, like it is feature rich if you're trying to play and get better in fighting games, and it's just super convenient. Wouldn't you say?
Exactly, I'd say so. Like easily, as I said, like Plus R is like my favorite fighting game at the moment, but like Plus R is like right behind it, because we haven't touched too much on the gameplay, but yeah, as a game, as a fighting game, it's like fantastic, right? It's like the gameplay is smooth, it's fast, it's freeform, it's as like complex as you want it to be, but like there's a ton of depth, and like this new like game that's coming out for like Uni 2, it like has not lowered like depth at all. It's actually just like added a bit more to it, right? So like anyone that's already like been a fan of like the series or just like fighting games are getting have like a full like feature rich gameplay game wise, and it's only getting better with the sequel. So yeah, I'd 100% recommend this game. Like it's like one of the best feelings fighting games out there to me. It's a like funny thing about this like series is like this is the only series where like timeouts are like hype. That's the only game. Like timeouts and like fighting games are like usually never like hype, kind of like boring, kind of lame, right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
But now this game, at the high level, this is like the only game where that's like high up to me.
And you know, going back to what he was saying, yeah, a lot of fighting games as the time we've seen it with Street Fighter 5, 6, and even Tekken, they tend to dumb themselves down. You know, they lose a lot of them. Like, good example, in Tekken, they got rid of the $100 Jin combo. For those who don't know, it's a notorious combo that someone paid Eris $100 to do it, and he's like, you know what, that's worth it. That combo was worth $100. No, and I even did it. I did it in Tekken. I took 3 times because they changed the stance, and I'm like, oh wow, that was the. I went back to Tekken 7. I'm like, damn, this shit's fucking hard. And that's a huge gripe for us legacy players, and it's the fine line. How can we increase death without sacrificing like execution? And the funny thing is, Under Night already kind of had I like that it started again. That's why I feel like Under Night is such a good point. It's anime. I feel anime fighters are the most aesthetically pleasing and the easiest to get into and play, and they're fast. Like you know, I heard people who play Street Fighter don't play Tekken. Like, it's too slow. Anime fighters are fast as fuck. I ain't never heard that complaint once for anime fighters. Like that's why I always feel like anime fighters. I'm surprised they're not leading the charge in the FGC. I find it immaculately weird because. If we're being honest, like people say, oh, you're this player, like you know, because people think I stick up Street Fighter. I'm like, no, I like all games and genres, but if I were to be one specific, like for the FGC, it'd have to be anime fighters. They're my favorite. They look sick as shit. They have the best cinematics. They have the coolest characters. They feel the best. They're fast as fuck. And I'm a crackhead. It's like, dude, one of my favorite fighting games is Million Arthur, the most obscure niche ass fighting game of all time, next to Third Strike. And Third Strike's anime is shit, so it proves my point still. And yeah, no. Yeah, no, the gameplay of Under Night is super cool. I forgot what I was trying to get at initially because I got a little sidetracked. Ugh, God. See, this is what it's like to have ADD, man. You start forgetting half the shit you say. But yeah,
but no, overall, I think you're like making a good point about like kind of like games like sacrificing depth like nowadays, like getting like a little too simplified in order to try to get like a bigger like audience. And even though it seems to be working, it is like a bit of a disappointment to like players who are like legacy players of that game, that series, right? But yeah, like this is like not going to be an issue at all with like Unity 2 games. Like just adding like more, it's going to be like more of a sequel rather, like a proper sequel than like a whole different like departure, whole new game compared to some of these other games that have like coming out like recent years.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was even. Yeah, no, thanks for when you were saying all that. It reminded me back what I wanted to get back at, and that's the thing. And you actually had that because this is why I feel like the play. I'm gonna be honest. I'm very hopeful for this, especially with now that we're having this talk. Like, I like that we can both agree, right, that it both is lacking in content, but is also rich in content, right? But just in different ways.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So I like that we actually ended up like, you know what? I didn't think that. This is the first for me. Like, oh shit. All right, fair enough. You know, it makes me. That's why I like that we have this, right? But you're seeing it from my perspective, from the average person. But also, hopefully, I'm convincing the average person that this is worth the $50, right? Like, and that's the thing too. Like, sometimes you get into fighting game. Like when I got into it, like I was already into it because it was cool, you know, it was free. But what made me love it even more and convinced me, oh yes, to get Eunice, Enkidu was the coolest looking character. So just and then some. Like, here's my thing. If you think a single character in here looks just so cool, you're like, oh man, this character's sick as fuck, and you hear a little bit, you're just gonna get into it. Trust me, just because of the character. And that's one of the big strengths of fighting games. Like for sure. For me, literally think about it. I only play Under Night basically because of Enkidu. Everyone else can fuck off. Like it could just be Enkidu mirror matches all day. I don't care. Like none of you are as cool as that guy. Like really, story was sure. But no, I suck that dude out. Like he's like, dude, literally, I spent more time in training with Enkidu than playing online. Like I don't even play people online. Why? Because I hate playing online. It's laggy and everyone's a filthy sweat and one touches you. And then also Enkidu's low tier. So it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit here and do combos. It just feels great. So like that's so I can testify with you guys. For me, it's at a higher level because I can clap the shit out of most of you. But here's the problem. I don't want to clap y'all. It's boring. It's boring as hell. I'm tired of that. I'm used to playing master rank. So I'm in a weird spot where I'm too good to face the average person and even some people who are average, but I don't play the game enough, nor do I care to play actual high level players. Like I'll sit here and get auto checked. I'm like, I didn't know that was plus. Or like, oh, they know a secret tech. I have no idea how to option select that. Like my footsies is way better than the average uni player, that's for sure. But like, if I don't know the matchups or the tech, I'm gonna get clapped. So that's why I'm content where I'm at. I'm happy in my little spot because unless Under Night's paying me money, I ain't gonna invest $100. Shit, I got things to do. I got games to develop. Fuck. That's all it is, right? And that's the average person. But yeah, no. Oh, hopefully we can do a good job as far as a product that if you were on the fence and you're hearing this and there's a character you really like, no, just get Under Night. Honestly, it is worth your money. And I think I feel like talking with this, I think I'm even more hopeful for Under Night's community because we're not gonna have a split, and that's something that can really ruin a fan. Like look at Guilty Gear. I think that's why Strive didn't pop off more than it should have because so many people were upset with Strive. They're like, I'm a play Rev, I'm a play Accent Core, and yeah, even though it's a minority, but at the end of the day, those are the pillars. We need those high level people to entertain. That's why I felt like I'm gonna be honest, Guilty Gear Strive competitive is weak as shit. And Snake Eyes was saying this exact thing. He's saying like, bro, a lot of any of the good players, they're too busy playing Accent Core. And this is why people want to get gatekeepy. Like, there's a reason Street Fighter 6 is the gold standard for esports. First of all, Street Fighter 6 is one of the most balanced fighters. They're all broken, they're all stupid, but Street Fighter 6 Like I said, knockdown, I can play the game. Apparently that's too high of a standard for most fighting games. I'm like, God damn, bro. And most of the stuff, like the worst we have is like, oh, take the throw. Not, oh, take the throw, infinite GG, shake my hand. It's like, what is that the standard for like anime fighters? You piss me off. You wonder why Street Fighter gets more views than y'all. And that's why. And then the other thing is Street Fighter's been around longer. It's a legacy game. It can't be helped. You know, when some dude's been playing since SF2, yeah, no shit, he's gonna clap the best Waltz team player. That dude barely started in Undernet. That bitch came on the PS3. SF2's been out since the 90s. That's number 2. And then 3, there's way more people. There's just more people. That's why Street Fighter is just a higher, like, I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, there are really good, genuinely good players. Like, I get clapped by y'all in these other games. I have mad respect to you guys, even the best Angie player. But y'all meet me in Street Fighter, you're my bitch. Just straight up, you're my bitch. Like, I'm sorry, dude. I'm not even one of the best Street Fighters. It's not even like a flex or anything. It's just because we've established you guys clearly don't play enough Street Fighter. And you're too used to botting everybody else. And then, yeah, you play people at your level. But homie, we literally have Tokido, Daigo, Dogura, like these guys, they play other fighting games and they clap too, so they prove my point. And again, I got top 100 in Guilty Gear. But part of the problem too is, like I said, rolling back to initially what started this is that even me as a competitive player, why do I want to stick around? It's too free, there's no money, they nerf my character, all right, I'm gonna leave. That's it, that's why I stopped playing Strive. And that's why Strive's dying, it is. Like, I don't hear shit about the competitive scene, like at all. The first thing I heard was, oh, it has a hacker problem. Oh, Snake Eyes is clapping again, and he's just sitting there like, yeah, you guys suck. We literally have Tokido, Daigo, Dogura, like these guys, they play other fighting games and they clap too, so they prove my point. And again, I got top 100 in Guilty Gear. But part of the problem too is, like I said, rolling back to initially what started this is that even me as a competitive player, why do I want to stick around? It's too free, there's no money, they nerf my character, all right, I'm gonna leave. That's it, that's why I stopped playing Strive. And that's why Strive's dying, it is. Like, I don't hear shit about the competitive scene, like at all. The first thing I heard was, oh, it has a hacker problem. Oh, Snake Eyes is clapping again, and he's just sitting there like, yeah, you guys suck. Like, he just came in there to say, yeah, you guys suck. Like, bro, I haven't played this game in like a year. I came to this tournament, y'all are my bitch. And then people got mad at him. It's like, dude, if that's not the biggest flex, I don't know what is. That's like me coming into Under Night right now and beating you, Crony. I'm not doing that. Like, no, that's not happening. But I mean, it's a testament too to how good of a player he is, right? And he, at the very least, he put the baseline effort, right? Like, and same for me for Strive, you know, but they nerf the shit out of Potemkin because they're idiots. You know, and that's the thing. The biggest thing is I want to say is that I feel the community is a lot more stable than tonight because we don't hear any of that. If anything, everyone, from what I've seen in the FGC, unanimously, a lot of us like Under Night. When Under Night Eunice came out, all of everyone at the locals was playing it. We stopped playing it because of online. Now that problem's like gone. So I feel as if the majority of FGC loves Under Night, especially the anime community. So we're good there. BB Tag players, Guilty Gear players love Under Night. Like, I think we have no problem there. I think when that game comes out, the majority of the FGC is going to play it. But will they stick around? I don't know. I really don't know. But rollback will help. I think it won't die off like Melty Blood. I give it 3 months and then we'll see.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
We'll see. Like, but and another thing I want to say is the community itself, it's going to be held together, which sucks for the older Under Night games, but it's better in the long term. Like, I feel like in terms as a community, for sure, I think it'll, I mean, dude, it's already strived on, but now it's going to be a lot stronger, you know. But as to whether we'll see growth or not is just, who knows? Honestly, who knows? Maybe this podcast can reach the right audience and they'll see like, oh shit, damn, you know what? Let me actually get into these features. Let me actually read the story, and they fall in love with the characters, and the characters will carry the game. It doesn't matter how little features. You just want to get better with Enkidu, for example, and then they'll do me. They're like, wait, he's a pro player, and you're telling me he doesn't even play online? I was like, dude, hell no. Like, I'll play with my homies, but if you know how to do any real combos in insert fighting game, I refuse to play you. Like, no, bitch. I want to stroke my ego. This is my game. I want footsies. And that's what's funny too. Under Night Oddly, the game that's most known for footsies, like, oh, it's footsies, then it turns into Marble, but the block version. Cool. Yeah, I totally want to play that. But, you know, I mean, I feel like every fighting game is god tier mid-level. Like, if anyone wants a recommendation, how good should I get? If you know every single move, the frame data, and know all the matchups, you're fine. You know, you're good. You don't need to know the craziest combos. Don't even try to be optimal, because then you're just going to ruin the game for yourself. Like, don't learn optimal Oki. Like, no, you know what? Learn the worst Oki possible. Y'all have way more fun that way. That way your partner can actually play the goddamn game. And then when you fight someone who does optimal Oki, you're like, I'm not running it back against you. There you go. I know it's a bitch move, but fuck them. That's what y'all get for having no life. Us newbies want to win. You know, that's why when I play, see, I'm a Chad. I'm the Chad goddamn online gamer. When I see someone's a bronze rank and I'm sitting here platinum, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let them win this match on purpose just to make them happy. And then I don't do good resets. I don't do optimal Oki. I just do something and I purposely do a move. I'm like, if they mash jab, they're going to counter hit me. Let's see what they can do from it. Right? And that's the problem is I feel that for you Under Night veterans, I've even seen other people agree with this. Like, get your ass beat on purpose, bro. You gotta give these nooblets like a little crumble. If they feel like it's impossible, they're just gonna give up. That's just how nooblets are. They could just hit you once, they're happy, bro. I'm serious, bro. They can just, oh my god, I can actually hit them. But if they feel like you're just doing, it's just because they don't know anything. If they feel you're doing something that's like, oh, they're doing, because they're gamers, but oh, he's doing a infinite block string, or he's doing this unblockable. Dude, Under Night doesn't have any of this stuff actually. Like, there is way to get out of this shit. But the way some of these fuckers be playing, and then these new people come in, as far as they know, it's an infinite. Like, I literally came into a person saying Street Fighter 6 had an infinite or an unblockable. Like, dude, I was like, what? It doesn't have any of this shit. And it just goes to show you how absolutely little fucking beginners know anything about fighting games. So FYI too, if you want to get, oh, but all fighting games are broken. Bro, fighting games haven't been broken since the PS3 era. Like, straight up, like, there is, like, because of patch culture, like, if something's actually objectively broken, they will patch it out. Like, straight up, like, that idea of the broken fighting game, like, minus MVC3, that game has infinites, but that game's kind of the point. It's ignoring MVC, infinites are generally not a thing, like, anymore at all. Even though it kind of feels like it. Trust me, I get you, but they're not a thing at all. And if it was, immediately banned, you know, like, nerfed. But anything else you want to add to that? Because I forgot already.
You made a couple of points there that I do want to kind of like touch on, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
So like we're talking about like games being like broken and like how balanced games are or not. I want to say like Uni is like actually by far like one of the most like balanced like games. Like even though you have like your lower tier, like quote unquote lower tier characters that people deem like more on the weak side, such as like Waltzing or other characters like that, you can win with anyone in this game. Like this game is like that bad. Even though like there's definitely top tiers, you can still like pick anyone you want and like have a good time with them, have like fun with them, and be able to win with them like at a top level by far.
No, absolutely, I agree. I mentioned that too oh, sorry, yeah, but yeah, did you hear it in my video when I mentioned that? Oddly, Under Night is like if we have to put number one, no, Under Night actually is number one. Like if someone's a good akatsuki or enkidu, like I mean, dude, literally they actually won an Evo. Lily is never won an Evo. She's the low tier Street Fighter, but I even tell people, yeah, don't pick Lily. You're just gonna lose. But Under Night, if someone says, oh, I want to pick akatsuki, enkidu, or Waltzing, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I wouldn't even tell them that they're not viable. I just be like, oh, they're just the worst character in the game. Oh, does that mean I can't play? No, you can just heads up to know that you're gonna have a rough fight, but you can win. Like I could see a Waltzing or a Akatsuki or Enkidu winning Under Night because I mean it's already happened. But do I see a Lily in Street Fighter 6? Fuck no. And Street Fighter 6 is fairly balanced too, oddly enough. But Under Night's one of the few games that can say it's balanced and actually it fucking is correct. Like, I can vouch on that. But continue, sorry for interrupting.
Absolutely. And one more like plus on in terms of like the gameplay as like a series as a whole is like the defensive mechanics and in this game are like very, very good, very robust. That is like something a lot of other games are kind of like lacking in terms of mechanics. It's just like the defensive side. They're usually like more offense oriented, but Under Night, no. You're actually like rewarded for playing defense. If your defense is like on point in this game, like you will be like able to get ahead in the actual match itself.
If anything, you have to purposely look for weaknesses on how to exploit that defense in Under Night. So actually, that's another thing I really do have to agree. And the thing is, you can actually experience this. So another huge bonus for beginning players that looks cool is that Under Night, like I said, really easy entryway. One of the easiest fighting games. Like I said, I went from playing like Street Fighter and NBC and immediately hopped into NBC. And this is to me the appeal of Under Night. If you at least understand buttons, quarter circle, you can get from low to mid level really fucking fast in Under Night. And then guess what? You can get into the nitty gritty. That's why I really can't help but advise you people, if you're really on the fence, you really should get this fucking game. Like, it, to me, and one of the reasons I know I'm confident, it's an anime fighter. Anime fighter is like, I've never seen a person pick up an anime fighter and say, yo, this feels like shit. You know, I've seen it for Tekken and Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, because they're just slower fighting games. But with an anime fighter, it's like, dude, these games have like 1 frame jabs. That shit will always feel good. It's 1 frame. Yeah, no, like I said, like, no, here's a base combo. Like I tell people all the time, the ABC is my favorite. Press square, triangle, circle, quarter circle, repeat. There you go. Congratulations. You don't need any more combos. And then you get to play footsies. And like you said, once you get into the mechanics, you're like, yeah, in other fighting games, you do get to that level. But then like you actually get to the neutral and you're like, oh wow, this is kind of bullshit. I don't got that shit. You can actually play footsies. The defense is immaculately good. And the roster's balanced. So you, like, that's why it's one of the best fighting games to play at mid-level. Like I if anything, I wish Under Night played how it did at mid over high. Like, just, that's just me, right? Then I'd be like, dude, then I'd just be playing Under Night. Like, I play it like I play Third Strike. You know, like, it's not a fighting game that has any money or competitively or small community, but it's like, the game's just so good and enjoyable that I was like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, to me, the parry mechanic is what saves Third Strike. I'm like, for as much bullshit as this is, the fact that I know that I can just parry some shit, and that skill ceiling's in infinite, that's one of the biggest reasons I love Third Strike. Plus that it's literally one of the best feeling fighting games of all time, right? But that's specifically me, and I get that 100% is not for everybody. because pairing is insane to fucking master. Heck, I've been playing fighting games for 8+ years, and now I actually know how to do Remy combos. So if you guys, oh, fighting games are hard. No, Third Strike's hard. Yeah, I did let that sink in. It took me 8 years to be like, man, I don't suck at this game. It took me 30 minutes to be decent at Under Night. Like, it wasn't hard for me to, oh my god, I actually know how to do optimal combos. Oh, I'll do triangle with hide, and then quarter circle. Each, you know, he says is 1, 2, second auto, and then that's all you need to know. Then you get decent Oki. You could throw a little, the little spin thing. Like, no one has to tell you this, and you start already doing, like, they're not optimal by competitive standards, but as far as neutral, like, that's decent, good game plan, you know. And then from there you learn, wait, you're telling me I could do orbital. So you realize, oh, when I do the Okazemi from my basic combo, right, quarter circle back, like you press your longest reaching button. I know normies like pressing, you'll press circle, your long reaching button, you confirm, you press quarter circle back, you do the Rekka, you press the button, and you're like, it feels super good, and then you get Oki, and then you throw orbital, and you do the overhead one, and you realize, oh, this is punishable. But then you realize the meta is, do I do an orbital to see if they're blocking? Do I run up and try to do a low but risk getting hit? You know, so now you're to rock, paper, scissors from full screen. Basic, right? I don't know if this is actual gameplay at high level, so don't quote me on this. But for most people, you will, I don't have to tell you this. This is how I did it. Let this again. I don't play competitive, but that's how I play with fucking hide. I'm like the most basic level, and guess what? No one taught me. It's intuitive because I see I'm at full screen, and I know I learned how to do quarter circle back. The execution's not hard, and I know how to do quarter circle forward. And that's why like you just do stuff, and instinctively the game, I don't know what it is, but you kind of know what to do. Like, oh, I'll do quarter circle forward, and then I press a button. I'm like, oh wait, that does an overhead. Oh, that's fucking sick. Oh, you can blow up the fucking orbital. Like, it's something that's so cool about Under Night. It's just something about it is so intuitive. And because it doesn't have a high execution barrier, like, you just do it. Like, exploring an Under Night is immaculately fun. And it lets you get to the, as most nooblets say, that's why they want games to be easy, is let me get to the strategy of the fighting game. Bro, like I said, as long as you know how you press buttons, and I mean, it's square, triangle, circle. And I say this, and like, oh, he doesn't say nothing. First of all, I hate notations. They can fuck off. And second, most people play on PlayStation. Like, this is going to relate to most people. So I'm relating to you guys, the majority. So just press square, triangle, look at your controller, press square, triangle, circle. Congratulations. You know 90% of anime combos. And I just add a quarter circle and I have a grand time. Boom. And now, like I said, you're in neutral. And now you engage in the situation, whether you do your orbital or you run up. Like, now there's a mind game. Do I just play it safe and chip a bit of damage, hope they get hit by it? Or do I run up and try to do a low or a grab but risk getting DP'd? Or do I do this overhead, hoping that they don't block it? I mean, I don't know if it's over or not, but that's beside the point. And then from there, guess what? And then you start learning more about, oh, I could double tap X to make it safe and keep pressing. And then you're like, oh, you lose your fucking mind. And they're like, wait, I can do supers from this shit? And that's where Under Night's cool. Like, you don't need tutorials. I learned all this. I didn't need a single tutorial for this. And remember, this is back when I was starting fighting games. Like, I remember my roots. That's why I cannot recommend this game enough for beginners. So hopefully I was able to convince a lot of you lower people that you should 100% check this fighting game out. And I think it'll make you at least a competent anime fighter. I should mention, these skills will not transfer over to Tekken or Street Fighter. They will not. But every other anime fighting game, you'll be fine. Anything else?
Exactly. That's exactly what I meant when I said before. Like, this game is like as complex as you want it to be. Like, if you just want to play, like, press A, B, C, D, like do some gatling, some basic gatlings into like basic Oki and like special moves, right? You can do that in this game. But like, I would say like the only really complex thing about this game is like the grid system. It's like what the unique system of the game is that separates it from any other fighting game. That is complex, but that's like something that's there. Like, if you want to get like more in depth into the game, you start like learning about the system. Like, you just like, it opens up a whole new world of like the gameplay to you. You're just like, oh, this is how you could use the system. No other game like has this. Like, why doesn't other games like have anything like remotely like this, right? But yeah, the gameplay is like fantastic, very, very accessible. Is not sacrificing like any depth in the series. And one other point, like you mentioned before, is like, we're not going to have a split player base, right? Like, with other games, they like the sequels are vastly different games. Like, we've been talking about Guilty Gear, right? We're going from like Strive, so from Extra to Strive, right? Very different games there. But with a Uni 2, like, basically the whole like player base is like moving to that game. It's like just a proper like sequel, proper like next installation of the game. It's not going to be a split player base. No issues with that are going to be coming up. And in fact, since it's having a rollback now, we're going to have better connections, and we're going to have more people that like kind of like drop the game just because they couldn't get connections, like coming back into the game. And the player base, yeah, it might like drop off. We're going to see if it does like in the future, but initially for like the initial like hype of the game, it's actually doing like very, very well right now. Like, if we're looking at like Frosty, so we're turning actual tourney numbers and upcoming tourneys, Like there is quite a bit actually, right? So Frosty's at the moment, like Uni is actually at 3rd place in terms of like entrance.
Shit.
It's right after Strive, right after Street Fighter 6. Yeah, it's actually 3rd. It's actually beating Rising right now, which is like the kind of the game that's like big right now. It's like popping off. Yeah, like it's actually beating like Rising right now. So it's pretty crazy. But yeah, there's like a ton of tourneys that are coming up for this game. So like the game is like not gonna be like the scene is not gonna be dying down like anytime soon. Even in terms of like content, the DLC is actually planned up to until 2025. So we're getting like at least a full year of like support for the game, and a lot of other tourneys like are up in coming up in the future. Like I said, we have like Frosty's like this month. We have like the WAS like Unisk Open, the first one coming up later next month. We've got crossover and like March. I think there's also like Evo Japan, whatever that is. Like
Yep.
even like the premiere like Frankfurt like tourney is like coming back. Climax of Night. It's actually coming back, kind of like retired, but no, it's coming back to you. So in terms of tourney support for this game, like it's looking up, dude.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what's funny? I want to say this much as, again, I really do want, at this point, you know, I'm gonna be honest, after this, I kind of convinced myself, I'm like, you know what, maybe I should buy a copy to get into this and help the game grow, right? Maybe make a meme video for Under, hey, there are no meme videos for Under Night. Oh shit. You know, I was
probably not. I haven't seen too many. Actually, I haven't seen too many.
Shit. Plus, it's good for the YouTube channel, so why not, right? Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be real. I kind of want. I mean, like I said, hopefully the higher level. Like, I want Under Night to be the premier anime fighting game. I mean, even you know what, and maybe it does become it because I think the appeal is just too strong. It just is. But to me, like I said, it's just my personal. I just hate the high level. Like, it's just so fucking boring to watch. I can't stand it. But hopefully that plays at least a bit more differently, or maybe enough people get into it that they like it. You know, like that's the whole thing. Because right now, Strive, I'm pissed. You can go fuck yourself. I hate Grand Blue with a passion. That's Grand Blue's gonna die. Like, look, if Grand Blue died before, and like they didn't feel like there was as much love with Grand Blue. And if anything, there's as many people as me. Like, I know there's a prominent Third Strike player who's a big Guilty Gear fan. I know you might have seen him. What's his name? Messi, the Messi dude who makes YouTube videos. He fucking hates Grand Blue too. So hopefully that game dies. No, it's gonna die, but please die faster. Fuck you. I do not like you at all. People are like, oh, what do you hate on other games? Because if no one plays that game, they play my game. It's as simple as that. No hate if look, no hate if you like Grand Blue. If you like it, hey, power to you, right? I'm not gonna make it toxic towards people. But fuck the game. That shit plays like ass. It feels like ass. It looks like ass. And it's taking attention away from my game. That's what it really is about. Fuck your game, not my game. That's the FGC in a nutshell. Congratulations. Welcome to the FGC. Remember, fuck everyone's games but yours. That's how this works. So everyone, for me, I'm the ambassador of play Third Strike, play whatever fighting game I happen to be giving a fuck about at the moment, and then insert anime fighting game I care about at that moment. You know what? If they nerf my character, oh, then fuck that game. No, I'm not being petty. Shush. But yeah, no, I would love Under Night. I think the way I'm seeing it, I think Under Night seeing the potential to become the premier anime fighter. Because Strive, people seem to have just fucked off and stopped caring, and no help by the patches and the online that has the hacker problem and just is unfunctional as hell right now. You know, so hopefully Under Night becomes the premier anime fighter. And even if the high level becomes boring, but at the end of the day, if people are getting into it and they're getting more exposed and maybe play mid-level, then I think Under Night can have a really bright future ahead of itself. And then, if anything, let's be honest, I hope this podcast reaches a lot of people's ears, and you can maybe eventually developers and like, you know what, let's actually take some of the ideas they implemented here, right? You know, you don't have to do anything crazy, but because at the end of the day, I'm critical because I want the game to succeed, right? Like, I really love the game, right. And I want, and then maybe some to dismay of some people. You know, maybe you like how you know, a good example, if Guilty Gear's Okazemi Hell, MVC3 is fucking One Touch of Death. Yeah, for all 10 of you that like that, cool, good for you. I speak for the majority where I'm like, no, make it more footsies and actual neutral like Street Fighter and Tekken. Like, give me good defensive options, let me roll up. I would like not every single character to be, okay, I'm gonna do a combo, I'm gonna get Okazemi, GG, shake my hand, but I'm still blocking now, you're not gonna block this mix, fuck off. You know, because I'm sorry, that's just not entertaining. I speak on behalf of the majority. We don't think that shit's entertaining. I've talked to everyone, literally normies to pros. None of us like that shit. Like, no, please, like, if you're gonna get a knockdown, let it be like Street Fighter, half death. We have three options. Do I do a combo that does more stun? Do I do a combo that does more damage? Or do I do a combo that gives me better Oki? And there's only so many things you can do that could loop back into that situation, and you have to reset neutral eventually. And that person still has at least half their health left. You know, and if you do a big damage combo, it's super situational, like in Tekken. Oh, you have to get a fucking crazy counter hit, or in Street Fighter's case, drive rush bait, back heavy, right? But in anime fighters, this is the biggest weakness. Homie, you can get a touch of death from a goddamn random light. So, but who knows, maybe anime fighters are stuck in that. Like, and that's my critique at high level of anime fighter where I can never get into them. It's just, give me some motherfucking neutral, goddammit. But, you know, again, I still want, at the end of the day, I consider Under Night the lesser of two evils because it's actually balanced. the developers aren't fucking idiots like apparently at Guilty Gear. And I don't know, I just like Under Night more. That's all it is. I'm not gonna lie, it's just favoritism at that point. You know, I mean, come on, Carmine's such a unique character. You name a character that fights with their blood and has pool bloods and shit. And he's not like the only cool character. We got a Katsuki, Enkidu. The rest of you aren't as cool, but my point stand. We got a lowly robot waifu. We all know I love lilies. Granted, she's kind of annoying to fight, but she's also lowly guile, so you kind of have to respect that. Do you have lowly guile? No, I don't think so. See, Granblue's just generic anime to a T, whereas Under Night is generic anime on the surface, but you're like, oh wait, it's anime, but if they were actual characters. Oh shit, damn, alright. Granblue's just the most uninteresting garbage I've ever played. I'm sorry. So again, sorry. Granblue, you like it? Cool. I mean, I know a commentator, he loves Granblue. But even he can agree. He's like, yeah, no, the reason I want another fighting game to die so mine can succeed. You know, mini tangent, but anything else you want to add?
I mean, like, Granblue to me is like not perfect at the moment, but I like it, so
whatever. I'm just a hater. I'm not gonna lie.
I think as in terms of like this overall discussion, like the game is it worth as a package? Like Granblue 100% is like worth the full price. It is like probably in my opinion like arguably like the best like whole like
package
best fighting game as a package as a whole. It just like has so much content. Like the story mode is like in a little RPG mode, has like little side menu games and that I mentioned before with the lobby system. So yeah, Granblue is like a great great bar to say. Like, I want to say as like a standard for other fighting games that they should be following, really.
And see, this is why you guys should listen to me. Like, if you should, whoa, should I buy Granblue or Under Night? Please buy Under Night. Please don't buy Granblue. Like, you see, I know in a surface level, we'll let that sink in. Like, even for me, someone has a package, but the package doesn't mean anything if it plays like ass. Like, I played the story mode. Me and my friend were bored. It has, look at it. It has co-op. It has an RPG mode, but the characters and story and gameplay is so uninteresting. Nah, I'm sorry, dude. I can never recommend Granblue. I gave it a fair. I wanted to like Granblue, but it is garbage. So let that sink in. Just because something on surface has a content, so let me advertise this. Like, no, please do not get Granblue. Please buy Under Night instead. I don't care that it doesn't have the co-op mode, RPG, or this and that. Here's the difference. No. You know what? If you meet me, you can physically hit me. Just touch Granblue. That shit feels like garbage. Then touch Under Night and tell me that shit doesn't feel better. Just that alone. Like, good example. Like, let's say right now, the theoretical game. It has every single game mode ever invented in one package. But it feels like you press a button, it has like 10 frames of lag. Or something. Or I don't know, name a game you guys, anyone, think of a game you just touched, you picked the controller, and you're like, wow, this feels like ass. Now, again, imagine the best product, your favorite game of all time, and it was steroids, like all the modes, whatever, Resident Evil, and it's all the Resident Evils, it has every mode, you could 360 no-scope, do Hadoukens as an Easter egg, or Monster Hunter, right? But it plays and feels like the worst game you've ever felt. Are you gonna play that shit? No! And that's why I want to say, as that, like Under Night, as a package, on the surface, doesn't live up to expectations, but underneath the hood, God tier. It feels great, it has great tools for you to fuck with. Like, and that's what I really want to get. Like, that's again, as Granblue is a objectively better product, I don't even recommend that shit because it's just garbage. And no, that's not an opinion, that's a fact, because fuck you, I said so. Don't care. I'm sorry, I just really hate Granblue, dude. I have an immaculate passion against that game because I gave it a fair shot. I'm like, oh my god, it's a good mode, it's easy, it has co-op, I can actually. And then me and my homie are playing and we're like, this is boring. None of the thing feels good. I'm not inspired to get better. Ladiva's the best thing about that game, and that's only because she's a whatever. They're a grappler, so. But that's enough me hating on Granblue. But yeah. So changing subject is there anything else you wanted to touch upon in the video that we didn't touch on right now that you had some critiques over you agreed on? From like
we can like talk about a little bit about the like visuals and the audio. I know that was like two topics that were like
perfect,
like really covered on your video.
Start with which one that's coming off the top of your head first. I actually do. I'll even cover some comments actually because they did cover that. Do you want to start with? The voice
I read some of them actually. Sure. Like the voices, yeah, definitely reworked there. Like they have like all new like audio lines and everything. I think for the most part it is mostly like the same like VA. You did bring up like Yuzu as like an example of one of the characters that seems to be like downgraded, but yeah, it is like a different like VA there. That's what happened. Like one of your comments, I believe they like also like pointed that out. Yep. It's just a different VA because the old VA like retired, so she just like wasn't available anymore for like her voice lines. But
respect to the
overall, I think it's like fine. I think overall like the voice lines were like fine. Like Carmine's are like still like good to me like as my main. Other characters are yeah, pretty much like about the same to me. Like Yuzu's definitely difference there for like the different VA, but I think overall it was like pretty fun.
And this I feel is probably the most subjective part, right? And I think the people who this matters to are people who already play Under Night. Like to me, I was just super attached to like say certain voices, and it can help me get out of the character. And I guess maybe it does matter because then it loops back like, oh, you like the character, but this happened, right? Like I think it was for one of the Street Fighter 4 pros. He said, oh, there's a character like Adon, right? He liked Adon, but he didn't like the way he sounded, so he refused to play. I don't know if Under Night, like maybe some people in the comments feel free to say like I don't know, it's different, right? Like I mean, I get that, that's extreme. I don't think anyone sounds that different. Like no one sounds immaculately different. You know, I feel like for new players you can get adjusted, but if you're like me, like I don't remember who it was, but there was a character that no, because I seen it in Tekken and Under, and it, I shit you not, it kind of makes me want to play Lars less, like genuinely, because I'm like, I feel this for two reasons, right? Because it's not the same voice. Okay, that can be a bit of a, I feel like if it's a different voice, as long as it does a decent job of capturing, like a good example, Wesker's voice actor changed 3 times and I love all 3 of them, right? But the problem for me is sometimes it could be the direction. I don't know what it is. Maybe because of COVID they only they do an in-game studio, so it could be double whammy. It's new voice actor. So me as a veteran Uni player, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I have to get adjusted. But now objectively, like that's what the clip I was trying to get examples. Like, you know, I'm not a voice actor, but there's a difference between someone going, and then, you know, like you can hear the emphasizing that shit. And then even it has the end. And even as a gameplay feature, when I react, I like to hear. That's why I don't know people who play without fucking sound. That's insane. I can hear the iconic "Dooyah!" Like, oh, I know exactly. Like, you know, you can react to it whether you're blocking or something, and you're like, oh, cool. You know, that's why actually I want to do a run one day with Enkidu being blindfolded and then beating the arcade mode. It's like, you know, just to get immersed, because that's how much I love the character. Oh, by the way, I cosplayed as Enkidu at an anime convention. So if you guys don't think I love the character. So any minor change is immaculately gonna bother me. You know, so I feel like that's just for me personally. And like I said, I think I'm in a unique position. I think if you love the character, you don't have to be good, right? Because I'm clearly not the best Enkidu player, nowhere near there. Lars probably pretty high for Mexico at least. But yeah, that's why to me that was definitely disappointing. And I get it, I can't give them beef. It is something subjective, but it 100% does bother my enjoyment of the game, right? As someone who loves these characters, I genuinely love who they are. I love their lore. They're like to me, I don't play Under Night or Tekken. I play Lars and Enkidu the game. Like I'm serious. That's so much of a fanboy I am. Like I love all the characters, but if there could be one, I'd be like, oh, Enkidu Lars. Like they're just too cool. Like they're way cooler than everybody else, and they fit my playstyle and philosophy. Like fun fact, I realize because of Lars and Enkidu, I realized a bit of something I love in my playstyle. Like I realized, okay, I like speed, I like being balanced, I like command grabs, but I was like, well, there's something that some characters have that don't, and then what it is, and what it is it's the Unga factor. I like just having a move that says fuck you, it's always my turn, and that's why I love Azrael. Like I like when we both hit each other, that you lost because I just I'm the better character. Like I said, it's just an ego thing, I can't help it. Lars had up forward 3, that's a move that just said fuck you and everything around you. Enkidu has his counter hit stay, like we both hit each other. Homie, you get double counter hit, it's my turn. Always. So you'd never want to trade with Enkidu, and I love that because that's why I like it when we both exchange. It's like my monkey mentality. They're like, no, fuck you, how dare you press a button, this is my game, you know. And I love that, and it made me realize that's the final component I love about characters. And that's why with Tekken Set 8 actually I learned I have to play Lars differently because they got rid of all his Unga factor, and that's why I was so pissed with Lars in Tekken, because of that fundamental gear change. And I realized that because of Enkidu, and I only got into that because of his character. So it's needless to say, I am very attached. He's like, I want to, when I have my fight stick, I have it here, I want to get a panel and have all my favorite characters on there, and one of them is going to be Enkidu. So I think that's what the voice line, I think it honestly heavily depends on your preference in the first place, right? Do you like the voice or not? And then, you know, how attached you are to the character. And then third, I feel like, maybe again, because I have gone into voice acting stuff and even acting back in high school, so I do know there is actual objective ways on how you do stuff, you know. That's why, believe it or not, most anime people don't actually talk or sound like that, or even in movies. You got to exaggerate certain points. You got to make the start of when you're doing a noise like, ugh. That's why the H has to be emphasized, the A can stretch out, but then the end has to be super long to emphasize the hit, because it matches the animation. Like I watched the whole video, I'll put it down below, you guys can check it out. It's called The Animation of Third Strike, and it's why it's one of the best. And if you guys don't know, I think it's called keyframing. Is in the beginning of all animations for fighting games, even Tekken does this. You put a move, you make the first move, like say like it's like a sidekick, like Ryu's sidekick, or even in Tekken. In real life, it's subtle, like, oh, you slightly move it and then you go all the way back. But in a fighting game, you have to make it go from the center all the way back, so someone can immediately see, from frame 1, I mean, well, they're not gonna notice frame 1, but from frame 1 there their eyes can notice the difference, and then your brain will react once it holds that frame for a couple seconds. Like an overhead, we always see with overheads, right? You agree, kuronoki?
Right. Yep.
Like they'll have the start always boom, the elbow is high immediately, and it's an iconic stance. And if you see it enough times, your brain will be like, oh, that's the overhead. And then it slowly starts moving forward, and that's why you have the sound in sync, like like the beginning, and then and then that's why like the start. So in case you don't see it, you hear it, it's in line with the motion, and then you exaggerate because the move has extra frames. So and then the end, you have to have a dun, and then it hits at the end because of the animation, and then you need to have the character accentuate that hit. And I don't know what it is, but Tekken specifically, and I forgot some characters in the night like that, like the voice feels too low. It feels like they're just being constant, like they're just voice acting, like they're just anime voice actors. It's different to be like like just it's a constant yell. It's just flat. It works in an anime. It does not work in a fighting game because you feel that impact, and that's what I really want to get into as someone who's really. I mean, I'm not a professional by any means, but I at least know enough, and I'm enthusiast enough. Like the same as an art. I'm not an art guy, but I learned keyframes and stuff from YouTube videos. I watch plenty of YouTube videos, like I said. And again, from what I've seen in the comments, that people are supporting me. Someone even said, we'll get into it about the art, is they said objectively is worse, and they're like an artist, right? I thought like some people talk about it, right? But that's why to me, I feel like, I will say at least, I feel it's 50-50. I think it's subjective and objective, because there is objective things I can say as someone who's at least knows enough about acting and even frame stuff, and how voice acting is important to correlate with frame, right? Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two. But then I also know at the end of the day, it's like, you know, maybe I just don't like the voice, right? Maybe if I love the voice, I would look over it, right? Like I can admit that part of it, because it's biased. Like at the end of the day, let's be honest, it's more biased because I love Enkidu and the new voices, whatever, you know. So I feel it's more subjective on my end than it is objective, you know, because at the end of the day, as long as you can see the frames, it doesn't really affect you that much, right? Same with the soundtrack, you know. So what are your thoughts on what would I say?
I think you touched on this like last point, and like dipping a little bit into like the art. I think like they're correct. Like I'm not an artist, so I can't speak on like the actual like technical like improvements or like downgrades of the art. But from like a casual, just like a normal perspective, I think it looks nice. I think I like the art style. But yeah, there's definitely like objective like drawbacks to it now. There's like as the comment mentioned, like some of like the expressions, like the poses are like kind of worse than they were before. But overall, I don't mind them on like a surface level from like a casual, like normal perspective, right? And yeah, touching back into the music, I think most of the remixes are like either about the same to me. Like they're not like big departures from what they were before. They just kind of have like more layers to them, more like guitars or and such like added to them, right? So I think the music is like still fine. I think overall it's like a great. There's some songs like you specifically like kind of like pointing out like Merc's theme as being like not as clear, right? I think that's the kind of like the wording you use there, not as clear, but I think overall it was like a disagreement for me on that part. I think his like a song actually got upgraded. I think that was like a big improvement there. The only song I want to say kind of got like a downgrade was like Hilda, mostly because like she actually did not get a remix. She got a whole brand new theme, and I'm just like personally not a fan of the new theme, but as a whole the music is still as good as it ever was. The series as a whole has like a pretty like classic and iconic soundtrack. You often see like a lot of like other like non-fighting game like related like videos that are using like under night music. Like that's how iconic the soundtrack to the game is, right? That's how good like the composer like Raito has been like in the series as a whole. Overall, I think like the art is like still one of the best ones in terms of like both like the actual like gameplay art, like this like the sprites are still like fantastic. They still hold up. As far as I'm aware, there's still like the same sprites that they've used since like basically the first game that came out like years and years ago. And like the actual just like visual like renders and everything still like from a normal perspective to me, like very, very nice, very high quality.
Yeah, no, and I think for the music, 100% is subjective because its music is subjective. But I don't know, I just like the old soundtrack more. So like, there's not too much to touch upon that. I mean, maybe there's like a music professor. I mean, I do make my own music too, especially for the game. I know, but I'm also hiring other people. Yeah, when I get too into that's a different discussion. You know, I can only go for that so much. I don't know. I just don't like it. Like I said, I went into that they overproduce it. It's not like super overproduced, right? Like I don't think they did too much with some of the other stuff. It's just that. And again, there are parts that are good, like, you know, Merkava, like someone even said, like, especially the Merkava song, like, that's one of the better ones, but I still like the original way more. Like, I don't know, it's a video game, to me, the biggest thing is that for a video game, it matters that it's more iconic, not how in-depth, this and that, like, how much it sticks out. Like, everyone knows, Mario song, like, can you actually just put the beats? But with the new songs, because they added extra stuff, you can't really just... do this. That's just to me. Like,
yeah, it's a very good point there. Yep.
But it's fine. Like they're not bad. I'll say this much. At least it's not trash or subjective. Like Street Fighter 6. Like I'm gonna be honest. I think it is hit or miss. Some of the songs are good. Some of them are bad. you know, and some people just think it's complete trash, you know, but Under Night still has one of the best soundtracks in my opinion, next to Persona.
Absolutely. As a whole, yep.
And Killer Instinct. Those are always my top 4. Like, well, what are the best soundtracks? I'll say all those 4 right there, because the soundtracks and bars. Like, I literally have, like, bro, like, we hear Under Night songs being played in essay videos, and they have nothing to do with fighting games. That's how you know they have bars. Oh, the new character select song is good as shit, though. I will say that. The new character select song is bars.
Oh, actually, yeah.
But the old one is iconic. I don't know what it is, so, you know, it's weird, but it'll always stick around. I wish they would at least give you options to put the, like, you know, like the jukebox mode, like from Tekken. As far as art, actually, I want to read this comment off. There's another comment underneath, and it kind of proves my point. I want to get this a bit to address the thing. He says that the game not being fun at high level, oh, it's literally just wrong. You know, and he goes down to say, oh, you know, it's a preference thing. It's like, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the point. Even I can read that could be a preference thing, and I mentioned that, but for the average person, it's not, you know, and I'm fucking subjective from that point for most. And the fact that you're saying literally just wrong, it shows like, okay, see, you're accusing me of being opinionated, but yet you're being opinionated yourself. And then goes on to say that strive high level, he says happy chaos, yeah, presumptuous. And I put in my comments that, like, dude, I quit Guilty Gear by the time happy chaos. So like, you're making assumptions and you're being wrong too. Like, yeah, I mean, whatever, maybe he's mad. And he talks about, like, dude, he talks about actual in-game stuff, and it shows that, I'm gonna get to you higher level players, that you're missing the point completely. Right? Think about it, and he says, oh, you're being objective and showing Street Fighter. No, the reason I showed Street Fighter not just because of objectiveness, to show that I don't suck, because it's important for both high and low level people to be like, oh, he's not just a scrub or whatever. That was literally the only point of that. It wasn't just, oh, new school. Like, dude, I'm middle school. I'm not new or old. That's the other reason why I do this stuff. I didn't play in the arcades like that, and I didn't just start fighting games. Like, dude, I started like with SF5, and that's been around for a while. So some of the comments I just can't help but be like, oh my god, like, what are you saying? And the music thing, that's fine, you know, disagree, like, that's fine, but it's just weird how he went into, like, he got mad booty hurt that I said high level Under Night isn't fun. Like, you guys gotta stop taking this personal, bro. Like, it's, like, I'm just honest, like, to most of us, it's not fun, and that's objective. It's an actual statistic. Like, that's not an opinion. Like, it's my opinion that I don't think it's fun to play in. It's objective that most people don't like watching it. It's just two different things, right? And hopefully it gets better, or who knows, like I said. And again, the fact that they're assuming that, like, oh, you talked about Guilty Gear, like, yeah, but if you watch my other video, I said I quit after the fucking first Evo. You know, and it's just weird. He sees that you're extremely knowledgeable. But and here's the other thing, too, that proves my point. But trying to come off as subjective, I mean, that was my point, I am. But I also mentioned when I am being subjective, did I not do a good enough job of that, Crony? Did I not? Hopefully I did. That I was like, okay, this is my opinion, but this is what is objective. Did I do a decent job?
I think you did. Like, you did like differentiate, like when you were being like more critical in terms of like objectivity or like subjectivity. So I think you did fine on that. Yeah.
Sometimes I cover my base. I even rewatched it before this to make sure I cover my base as well. Like, actually, I'm surprised when I do these. I gotta give myself credit. Like, cause I had a recent controversy with a Cropecat video. I'm not gonna get into it. And I look back, cause people were making, you know, stupid, heinous things in the comments, and I look like, what? No, I did cover this. Like, because I was so mentally prepared, because I know how the internet is. Like, I prepare for these exact scenarios, and people still make stupid comments. It's like, you can never win. But it says, come on, extremely knowledgeable, and I am, to give legitimacy to my review. And it does, because other people, they give the context, oh, I'm not a fighting game pro player, but to me, I really like Under Night. You know, and that's good. They give, and I can't give them, and I'm the only one who actually has, like, that can cover it from a casual perspective, and someone who actually is at least good at the game. You don't have to be a pro at Under Night. But as we can clearly tell, I mean, let me ask you this, Crony, as someone who I would consider a pro at this game, do you think I'm at least knowledgeable enough about the game and its core systems to be like, I could give a fair thought on, like, more or less for like most people who want to really get into it? Like, what would be your personal thoughts?
I think so. I think you are. Like, you've already kind of shown like how your experience with other fighting games, especially like with Street Fighter, right? So like giving the more like casual perspective on like this other kind of a different, like very different game. I think you're like fine on that.
Right. But of course you would say that like I actually do know about Under Night. Like, I don't understand it, right? Like, I feel that's like kind of what this thing is saying. Like, oh, you don't actually understand Under Night. Like, what? Like, I know how the grid system works. I know about the defensive mechanic. I did the tutorials. I did it.
Right. No, you do. You do.
Right. So go ahead.
I will disagree with your point about like the high level being like boring. It can be, to be fair, like confusing from like a spectator perspective. If you're not at like that level, you might just like not be like noticing like what they're doing, or like why like certain actions are happening. Like, why is like this person just like purposely dropping a combo? But like there's like reasons behind that, right? So like from a spectator perspective, yeah, it can be like a little confusing, a little weird.
And that's
can
be
like seen as boring, right?
From that.
And yeah.
I said subjective and objective for most people that don't like watching it, right? Like, if they really get into it, and that's, I think, Under Night's biggest problem. But me, I knew a little bit about it, and I just don't like it. I just don't like playing that, you know. And I said
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. If it's not for you,
right? Like, so maybe I needed to do a better job of explaining that. So, you know, that's on me, right? But next time. And again, to me, it's like these weird. Yeah, I know this is weird. I guess a mini segment of addressing a comment. To your review, might rub some fans the wrong way, and you know what, I don't care. Like, you're gonna rob, you're always gonna get someone mad. Like, if you don't praise something, that's just the internet. You might get legitimate. It's like, that's just the fact. But the thing is, I care about people like you who aren't just jackasses. And you know, I mean, my review didn't piss you off, did it?
No.
So
like, you had your gripes with it. You kind of like made that clear, right? With aspects of it, like you didn't like how it was like as a package as a whole. But even then, like, I didn't get like offended by it or anything. Like, I see you have like made like some fair points. So obviously, like, there's been like moments I've like disagreed with you so far, but
right.
No, I think you were fine, like, in terms of your review.
Right, and you know, this is why I like talking. This is why I don't mind having conversations, but I want to have conversations with people who I know who actually aren't, like, at least I don't mind with even lower level people, right? Because I like addressing, because in that case, like, I talk to a lot of low people and they'll have complaints of fighting games and I'll address them. And I tend to find that once you explain something to them, like, oh, okay, I get it, and I even agree with them. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I do think this is dumb. I agree with you. And like, one example, one of my beginners, like I said, the Rock, who donated money, he was like, why can't I command grab from like hits or blocks? And I explained, would that be immaculately broken? Can you guys imagine if a grappler just simply press like jab, right? He's plus, and you know, and then you could just command grab you every time, like it'd be an infinite, you know? Like, I actually explain and things like that. And then I would say, oh, well, then how come this? And it's another mechanic. Oh, this is how it works. I agree with you. I think it is dumb, but it's just the way it works, you know? Like, I can level with them. Like, nah, I do think the fact that some characters who have no business having a DP have a DP. No, I agree with you on that one. Like, it's like, but I tell them, oh yeah, it has this, and like, oh, that's dumb. No, I agree with you. And then they sympathize with, like, oh, so you know about it, but you also hate it. Yeah, I hate it. I just got to deal with it. That's just it. You know, whether you like it or not, you just got to roll with it, dog. Like, oh man, this character has a DP for no reason. Wow. Well, fuck me. I guess I just have to approach Okazemi different. Wow, great. They gave another character a DP. But yeah, nah. Like I said, I'm okay with rubbing. Like, if this rubs you the wrong way, then it just means you're just too in your own hole. And that's the main thing. I'm always self-conscious. Too many high-level people live in their own little bubble. You know, they think their game, and I even experienced it with BB tag players, and I found them obnoxiously annoying to deal with because I cared about BB tag growing. I taught lower level people. Good example, like one of them, and this one is a different case, but as someone, like I said, one of the biggest advices I give people who want to teach fighting games is that, remember, assume they know absolutely nothing. Do not. That's why I never do motion inputs, and I will always introduce concepts, and I never touch anything high level. I always go start with buttons, right? And this dude was getting annoyed with teaching one of my best friends, actually. He's like, oh man, I do notations. It's kind of annoying that doesn't know what I understand. It's like, dude, why would he know what notations are? And you have to go to them. This is the thing, is you go to their playing field. This is not you. You're the that teach them. They're not coming to you. You're going to them. Like, even if they come to you, you still got to go to them. As a good teacher, you go on their level. Right, and you got to realize they play a completely different game. Like, the things you do in none of that matters. Optimal combos, no. You're here to be like, okay, cool. How can we teach you to? We need to get into your brain that jab is best boy up close. That's where you're at. And by that same notion, what were you pressing back for? This no. Get rid of that trash. You better learn what square, triangle, circle, and X do. You're on their fucking level. You get what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, you're bringing them with them. You know, like, you didn't know what notations fucking were. That's why I'm a huge advocate for fuck off for notations, especially anime. Those are garbage. Like, once you get good enough, then all right, learn your notations. Tekken and Street Fighter. Anime notations can still go fuck themselves, but that's subjective, right? Or objective? Yeah, whatever. But again, when you're teaching a beginner, no, there is no ifs, ands, or buts, because you want to make the experience as smooth as possible. You know, there's something one of my teachers told me is like, when you start with anyone, immediately go to where they're at. Be like, okay, find out where exactly they're at. Then from there, find whatever they're most comfortable and what they know, and start with there. A good example, I remember this episode of King of the Hill where he's teaching a football player. Peggy Hill couldn't do anything to teach him. He just couldn't get it, right? He's just the way he is. But then the second she made the correlation, oh, he's really good at football, she started making references to football, to what was the subject, and he immediately understood. And that's why you should never use notations when teaching players. If they know how to use their control, they know what square, triangle, X, circle, R1 is. You don't even gotta tell them what they do. You just say, oh, in this situation, press R1. And they will just do it because it is naturally embedded in them. You get what I'm saying? There's too many barriers. You have to go to in their comfort spot. Find something that they really like and then correlate that. Like, find a game. Like, I mean, it's easy for me. Like, do you play Call of Duty? Even some people, believe it or not, they change their buttons to be like Call of Duty. And you know what? That's fine. Then you adjust to them. Be like, okay, so you like, what do you like to do? Oh, I like quick scope. And then find the closest thing to that technique and make them master that. You know, and I mean, mini tangent, but that's what I'm gonna get at, right? It's just that. So when I think about these things, I'm always self-conscious about these high-level people, but you people don't remember what it's like to be a beginner, and I can tell because you're all god-awful fucking teachers. The FGC, I'm sorry, 90% of you are the most garbage teachers I've ever fucking seen. I know because I've been in enough goddamn chats, and you are awful. I see the beginners literally sit there and be like, I'm confused, I don't get it. I come in and they're like, holy shit, I get you. Because I'm like, oh yeah, press square, triangle, circle. And they're like, oh yeah, like you guys are saying ABC and this and that. Like, I don't know what that means. Like, terrible teachers. I literally come in for 3 seconds. So press square, triangle, circle. And they're like, oh shit, that's cool. They were sitting, I've been sitting here for an hour and I didn't learn a single combo. That's how useless y'all motherfuckers are. And I'm trying to appeal to them, the square, triangle, circle people, not the fucking Canadian zip code motherfuckers. Like, you guys are gonna buy Under Night anyways. You don't give a shit what I say. You guys are just mad that I'm criticizing it. I'm being honest. I want to get to the people who are like, huh, square go burr, you know? And I want them to be like, square go burr, triangle go burr, circle go burr. I'm glad you're liking my analogies of Chrono. That's just how I am. I just shit talking. I know, sorry for the mini tangent, but what are your thoughts on that random shit I just went off a bit? So before I
don't think that you're like making some good points about like where to like start teaching someone. Like, you have to start from the beginning. You have to start where like what they understand, what they understand like at that moment, right? You can't just like get like too deep into the game because everything's gonna be going over their head, right?
So I'm glad you at least agree, right? But sorry for the mini tangent. Just wanted because again, it's that comment, right? It's the comment section that got me into why I just can't stand some of you higher level players. Like, you guys are good and whatever, but when it comes to getting new people into the FGC and teaching, you guys are just low-key trash. I'm sorry. You're just trash. I'll give you guys shit on that. I know, because I'm the experienced teacher. I've been doing this shit for 3 years. And I go into a chat for 3 seconds and I taught someone a combo. You got been there for an hour, you didn't teach them shit. So I'm sorry. The proof is in the pudding. All right. But let me get to this comment by Blaine Telemian, and it's going to do with the art. Nah, I feel like the art style is a huge miss. It's not objectively better because of 2 issues. Okay, that means he knows what he's talking about, right? I'm assuming he's like an artist. First, the fact that there's too much shading, right? And I don't know shit about shading. Okay, I mean, I agree with you. I think the art is very clean, but he gets into something that you said earlier. Said, and second, it sacrifices pose strength. See, there you go. The pose stuff you're talking about. Seriously, only like
this is the comment I was talking about.
Eltonum, Chaos, and Hilda got more expression pose, and everybody else got so stiff. For more detail on which is a common mistake with these art evolutions. You know, I have to agree, dude. No, seriously, Hyde's old render had more expression in his pose, and you can find out the tracing a S curve at the bottom. The issue is only for Yusuriha, but due to the weird posing, her anatomy is so wrong. Just look at her spine. Ah, okay. Yeah. So it seems it's objectively even wrong. Like, it just, to me, I looked at it like, it just looks clean. You know, like, okay, it looks clean as shit.
Yep.
And you know, I did feel like it wasn't more expressive, but that was an objective thing. Not, you know, it's because I don't know what to look out for, right? So I at least knew my spot. I'm like, I know about key posing and fighting games, but as far as still art, I got nothing. Because I mean, you just look at it. Oh, it looks nice. I like it. You know, like, I didn't put that much thought into
right.
it. But yeah, no, posing I know is extremely important, right? Like, and nobody looked like they had an extra finger, so. That's interesting. What were your thoughts for on? Like, that's as far as I can get. It's like, oh, so it's bad. I'm just gonna think, okay, art is objectively worse, but I don't think it's bad enough to where it's off-putting.
Bad at all, yeah.
Right. So
exactly right. So I think that I mostly agree with that comment. Like, once again, I'm like not an artist, so I can't like really like point out these technical or like more detailed like comments toward it. But yeah, on the surface of it, like I said, it looks clean, it looks nice, the art style is like great, and I think like the only thing we really need to cover really at this point is like kind of like the UI. I'm pretty sure there's like, also like another comment that kind of like said something about the UI of the game, right?
I don't think so, actually. No. No, it's mainly 2 of the voice acting. That dude getting kind of booty hurt for some reason. I mean, I will give him credit. He at least did talk about the voice acting. Yeah, nope. They were, the user has retired. Too expensive. I like that. One of the comments just, it's too expensive. I'm like, I mean, yeah, no. And that one's also technically subjective, but I feel like it's a fair subjective because not all of us live in a first world country and not all of us have a good job. So sympathy to
regional pricing.
Shouts out. I mean, I'm in the same position. Like, but, you know, at least I'm not broke, so, hey, you know, I'm out here living and I have enough free time that I could podcast about goddamn video games. But yeah, you said about the UI, so what are your thoughts about the UI? I forgot, I think I barely touched the UI, honestly, if I'm being honest. I think I said I was kind of disappointed, but I was referring more to the menu.
Right.
Because I feel like there's not enough personality. Like, look at Guilty Gear, like, Strive's, like, we can all agree that the health bar is just not as personality as Rev, right? And I felt like they could have done a bit more. That's my only critique. Like, it's the new game. It's Uni 2. Like, can you not make it look like just still bars? Like, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but like, I would have liked, like, I don't know, add some fucking squigglies or some shit. I don't know. I feel it's a bit too big. I mean, it looks clean. I'm not gonna lie, it does suit it, but I'm like, this would have been cool if this wasn't already a thing in Uni 1. So, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I got nothing on this one.
Personally, like, I don't mind it. Like, it is like a fair like critique, I want to say. Like, once again, going back into like the art, like you could take it like character select. I think that's an example you brought up in the video, right? The character select screen itself is like vastly different than like the last games. And yeah, that's basically one of the 2 complaints I've seen so far about the game. It's mostly about the art, right? Like the character like renders aren't like as good as like they were before, and also just like the character select screen is not as good as before. That's a fair critique to me because it definitely is like way more like minimalist. It definitely got like simplified. If you go back and look at the last games, like even the older games, they had like a lot more like personality and like style. They were like very different from like any other games like character selection, right? But with this new game, yeah, they're kind of like simplifying things. But personally, I don't mind it as long as it's like clean, as long as it's functional, and it's not like looking bad. It's not like so simplified it looks bad, right? It's like step backwards. I think it's fine to me. Like I don't mind it. I don't think like every game needs to have like fancy like health bars or anything like that. So for this game too, I think it's like fine.
Yeah, true, but I feel like that can go really a long way. You know, it can make someone really go from just liking the game to loving it. But I agree. No, it's functional, right? Like it's super functional to me. It's like I said, it's like it's a pet peeve. But I also can't help but feel in the back of my head that this could make or break someone, right? Because there are, how many videos do we see, like even when I was playing Resident Evil 5, like even just the small feature makes you love the game that much more. And, you know, and, like to me, it's like, and again, it's because it's something that's so simple. I think that's why I want to point it out. It's like, dude, homie, I could get a Crayola right now. Put that shit over the health bar, be like, damn, look at that, more personality. And it's the thing you can just implement, so it's worth pointing out. Because it could, I don't know. Maybe I doubt no one's gonna sit here and be like, man, that UI's not clean enough. I'm not gonna buy the game. You know, I feel like it's mainly only veterans, really. You know, and again, look at Strive. People were, dude, I know in Strive there are people that, for them, the fact that the UI had no personality was the final straw. You know, it could be that. It won't be the catalyst, but it could be the final straw. You know, I don't think that's the case with Undernight. And maybe I'm in an immaculately niche group where I'm like, can we like give Enkidu's life bar like purple around it to match his color, and then Laundrakia's like just the color? Let that sink in. How much personality more would it be if you just had their color over the health bar and it glue? Like, come on, you can't tell me that's not cool. Like, it's a nice little.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
But then again, I mean, hey, no one's gonna. No, let's not mention someone who's helping work on a project, or maybe, I don't know, an Unreal Engine about a fighting game and isn't looking way too into everything, little detail, because he wants to make the best fighting game that he ever could, like no one ever has. God, I swear to God, if I keep doing these, I'm gonna end up leaking 90% of what I'm doing. But yeah, anything else? Anything else on that as far as the UI? Because I think I pretty much covered what I want to talk about.
No, I think it's kind of it. Like I said, I think it's like perfectly fine, perfectly functional. It's not bad at all by any means. So I don't mind it at all. Personally, not something that's like gonna be a gripe of mine for the game.
Right. Like I said, it's something I'd get over too. But okay, next thing is there anything else? I think we covered everything about the video, right? Or is there anything else you wanted to personally bring up that I might have not touched about?
I think like the only things I can like want to like bring up is like what I think like the game like needs that could make it even more, right? It's already like pretty good to me in terms of like the content and like all the new features as I've been saying, right? The only things I feel like it's like missing that it could still possibly get, like there's still time, right? Is like crossplay, Wi-Fi indicators, and like the hitbox sphere.
Damn, yeah.
Those are like the only 3 things I could like wish for at this point.
Damn,
I don't really like need them, but yeah, if those things were included in the game, it'd literally have everything. I mean, everything.
No, I agree. If anything, I feel, because like it's just, going back to the whole rollback thing, that's almost like a necessity now. You know, like good online is a necessity in fighting games. Like literally that one fighting game came out, people were all interested because of the terrible trailer, but because it had no rollback, no one even bothered to pick it up. Because...
Exactly. Oh, you're talking about Phantom Breaker Omnia.
Yep. It's just like, I'm sorry, man. Like,
Yep. It was like DOA, unfortunately.
Yep. And another thing I kind of am also kind of there too, mainly for other games, not so much fighting games, because like plenty of people, but Undernight needs crossplay. It needs it. The player base is small as it is, and here's the thing, it'll shrink less if it has crossplay. Like, what's weird is like they can do it. Like, I have to me, they have to announce it. It's a new game, and here's the other reason why. Guilty Gear has crossplay. BB Tag has crossplay. They retrofitted it. Undernight is fresh off the book, so even if it doesn't come with it, they can 100% add it. Like, to me, I feel
later on in the future, exactly. Yep.
I think they will, and they have to. They should. I think for the strength of this game, and if we want it to truly last, it needs crossplay. No, to me, you could be the biggest or the smallest game. I think, to be honest, crossplay is a standard. It's just a standard. We're just too, like, literally I go back and play old games and I'm like, wait, it doesn't have crossplay? Like, it just feels archaic. It feels archaic to not have crossplay. Like, I'm super glad you brought that up. I did not even think about that, actually. That's crazy.
With every game, like having like rollback or like getting like rollback retrofitted into them, like I feel like that's the next step, like that fighting games like need to get like to that next level, right? To like next like set of standards is like crossplay.
You need to be able to play people online, effectively in the first place, and then just play everyone regardless of what they're on. I mean, Mortal Kombat's getting a bunch of shit because it has no crossplay, and it's coming. It's like, but yeah, now I need to see. We were all vouching for rollback. We're winning. Now we need to be crossplay.
Exactly.
Crossplay. Sajam, lead the line. But is there anything else you want to think? I think I'm pretty much good on mine. I mean, plus I ranted the most. I mean, dude, if you have anything else you would like to add, because I feel like I ranted a bit 3 times at least. I know for sure, slightly long, but I mean, hopefully you enjoyed them. I mean, hopefully you enjoyed the little rant.
Yeah, it's been fun, dude. Like, back to like that little like last point, like the Wi-Fi indicators is not a feature in the game yet. It's like a little like, minor inconvenience. It's just like a nice quality of life to have, but it's still something that could like be added to the game. Like there's still time. We're still like 23 days away from the game or so. And like I said, they're kind of like announcing like new features like every single night. So might be added. Hitbox viewer in terms of that, like we're getting frame data. That's already like important. That's like core like key aspect of that. It'd be nice to have, but like it's not like a make or like break for me whatsoever. It's just like something I'd like would love to have. But otherwise, yeah, the game's kind of has like everything I would want it to in terms of like, the gameplay, the features that are being added. Like everything is like pretty great to me. The soundtrack, character like designs and everything. Yeah, it's like great. I'm like 100% like already like 100% like on track with the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I would prioritize, like, to me, it's like, oh, give me online crossplay, a really good training mode, frame data, and I'm pretty good, right? Those are the key features I care about the most, like especially the good rollback, and let me choose my rollback frame. I hate when fighting games don't let me choose my rollback frames. Like, you know, to me, I would rather have that I can see frame data over hitboxes. I'll say that much, right? Because hitboxes are very situational.
Exactly.
So it's not like, it is a nice thing, but I think it has the majority of features that I would say. Like, the only thing missing is crossplay, but outside of that, as far as me as a player, normal, and even when I want to say, like, it's just seamless. Like, I expected it's a standard. I came into training, okay, because I came for Street Fighter 6. Like, Street Fighter 6 to me set a new standard for fighting games, and at least when it comes to features, it's right behind them. Like, right there, if not maybe above them in some cases, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, like, we have to remember, like, even though like they're being like published and like backed by ArcSys, like frame spread is like still like a small dev team compared to like Capcom and all these other big companies, right? So for what they're doing, like by themselves, it's like fantastic. Definitely like step forward and like improvements from like the last game. So, you know, props to them. Like we got to give it to.
Big shout outs to French Bread, dude. You guys, like, they're probably one of my favorite indie developers, honestly. Yeah. I mean, the art alone, like I said, like I just you could just feel the love in the game, you know?
Oh, definitely. There's like a ton of passion that's like being like put into this game by far. You can tell that from like all the stuff they've been adding.
Anything else you want? Like I said, at this point, it's just you running the show because that was all my points, which I
think I kind of like covered everything that was like discussed in your video. So like I've been like kind of showing like, yeah, I'm already like on board with the game. I'm very biased towards it. I love the game. Still gonna be playing it, right? Even the current version, like Uniclear.
If I'm being honest, I think you did a fairly good job of countering my points and making your point valid. And we both agree, okay, we're both right, but you're making the case why you like it. And I helped boost like, okay, why, you know, I do like it, but so I know I get it. Like, you're supporting it, and I think it is worth it. Like, and to me, like, if any, think about it, I went from saying I don't want to buy the game to like, you know what, I kind of want to buy the game. So like, yeah, I think it's your heart's in the right place, you know. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, I think so. I think yours too is right. Even though, like, you're like had some gripes with the game, I think like, yeah, you just want the game to be better, right? Like, you want the game to have like support, be better, to have like higher standards, right, compared to other games. So yeah, I think even though like you might have your issues, and I still like some of them I agree with you on, I think like still. Yeah, it's like pretty fair. We've been pretty fair with the game so far.
Yeah, that's about it. It's nothing else we need to cover. We got all our bases. We should wrap this up.
I think we kind of covered everything. We covered like the art, the audio, covered the content of the game as a package, like the features started being added, like what is missing compared to other games, how it compares to other games. Yeah, I think kind of covered everything. And I think I made myself clear. Like,
well, I mean, yeah,
I 100% like recommend this game coming out.
And you know, even I'm like, again, I recommend it as long as you don't mind certain features that you may be used to, but I mean, maybe it's your first fighting game, whatever, but now you guys know this whole thing we covered. We gave everything that we should have said, and I mean, come on, at the end of this, I'm like, you know what, now I kind of want to get it because now I'm hyped to see the potential future of Untitled, and I kind of want to be there, you know. That's really what it's about. And at the end of the day, I know I'm getting into it that I have to overlook its flaws, and I will. And it's something I'll always say is like, do you want actual content, not by our standards, by the average normal standards in gaming? Like, and especially think about it, Baldur's Gate came out. To me, that's the new standard what all games should follow. Be $45. No, you have to be. We're just too poor. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. We're too poor. Be cheap. I don't care if the game has to be less graphically intensive or whatever. I don't care. Just be cheaper. That's number one. Two, actually have modes. Like, please have plenty of modes, and then have those modes be deep. That's it. That's all Baldur's Gate did. Like, Baldur's Gate went back to the era, you know, money back. Said, oh, when I came to the PS3, I'm like, oh, every game's gonna have co-op. Oh, we're gonna have more modes. No, you got less modes and you got no co-op. Then you're gonna like it, and we're charging you more with DLC. Baldur's Gate went back to the PS2 era. Like, here's the sequel. It's just the old game, better with more stuff, same price. And game of the year, deservedly so. 100. And think about it. And it's crazy because these developers, oh, that's impossible. Wait, you're telling me it's impossible to just make a sequel? Like, that's all they did. They just made a sequel like that. It's so crazy to think that that's the high standards of modern gaming. Just make an actual full sequel. That's insane to me, dude. You know, like,
and essentially like give people like their money's worth, right?
Exactly.
I think that's what it comes down to, really.
And at the end of the day, it's just it's in this economy. And I think that's why the FGC has suffered a lot too. It's tough. Like, I can't go to locals as much because whatever. And you know, that's a completely different conversation. That's why I really wanted to get it like, but if you do pay the 50 and you like the characters, make sure you are gonna invest time. You'll get your money's worth, but just do know you're not gonna spend 100 hours. Oh, here's the campaign, here's world tour. No, it's 100 hours of each second dado. Like you're sitting there, bro. You're like, man, doing this combo for like an hour feels great. I'm gonna keep doing this for like the next 10 days. You know, like that's what you better enjoy the shit out of that, dog. Then it's gonna be worth your money. You know. Speaking of, yo, I guess yeah, I think that we can end it here more or less, right, Chrony?
I think so. Like overall, for like anyone that's like interested, like remotely interested in like trying out the game, like to get a feel for like how the sequel is gonna be, like go ahead and pick up like the current game, like the last game, like UNI Clear. I think it's like still on sale for like $5 right now for like a day or two more.
Yep.
So yeah, I think anyone that's interested, like pick it up. It's 100% worth it. Like one of the best fighting games out there for me, in my opinion. And eventually, I'm pretty sure like UNI 2 will like drop to like a pretty like cheap like discount. So at that point, that'd be like a great like time to get into it as well. But there's no better time to get into a fighting game than like its launch, right?
Right. So basically, a message, and it's even repeated for the Spanish, you know, my Latinians, like, so si quieres nada más lo compras a $4, luego de ahí, no, and I'm gonna put subtitles under these too, so this is great so you guys can understand it. But no gastas nada, es $4, no es nada, y también en PlayStation. So yo es lo que yo recomiendo. Que 2 o 3 meses y luego boom, ahí tienen la experiencia, ¿verdad? Ahí juegan online y van a ver muchos porque cuando... Yeah, by the way, I speak Spanish too, so yeah, mini fun one, but you know, I was like, hey, you know what, let's do Spanish for the LAN players, just recommendation, and then I'll put subtitles for everybody else to understand. But yeah, that'll be about it. Chrony, I would like, what was your thoughts about your first, I don't know, is this your first time doing something like this, by the way?
I think so, actually, yeah.
Interesting. You know, I think this went fairly well, actually. If anything, I think you did an amazing job. I somehow knew, I was like, I can listen to this man and respect him, and somehow I feel like he's gonna change my mind on some things, and I think you absolutely did that. I think this is a great thing. It's got me actually more excited for Under Night now, like more and again, I still, on my stance, right, it's a product, but I think I'm more excited for Under Night than I was beforehand. Like, you know, I'm really looking forward to the future of it. What did you take away from this? You know, or how did you feel about this?
I think yeah, it's like good to hear like that you're like, kind of like change your opinion on it, because like of course I'm biased. I've been saying like I'm biased towards the game. I love the game, and I'm like hoping like it just spreads out to more people. The more people get to try it, get to enjoy the game, and like get into it, right? And overall, I think you were like you were fair to the game. Like I didn't get like offended by like anything you said or anything like that. I think you made like a lot of like very good points. Yeah, there's like definitely some things I hope I addressed there, and like hopefully change other people's minds as well.
Yeah, no, and for that, I will say we'll definitely wrap some things up. Big shout outs and thanks to Kuronoki. Go check him out in Twitch. We're gonna have the link down below for the YouTube video. Please check him out. He's one of the coolest dudes you could definitely get in. He plays Guilty Gear Accent Core and Under Night a lot. He also, I think he plays a bit of Final Fantasy 14 from time to time. I don't really care too much, but if you do that, whatever. And he's down to play all the time. Just do know he is really good to at least be intermediate. He's not like God tier in Guilty Gear. I've seen him. I'm not either, but you know, he's actively, you know, he's learning tech. If you want someone to be better with, he's definitely the guy that's learning tech as it goes, you know. And he really, as you guys can see, he really enjoys his stuff. Highly recommend him. I think he's probably a really underrated FGC. I mean, even VTuber, right? There's not that many FGC VTubers. I mean, I technically count.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I lurk on his stream all the time, so I'm a really huge fan, you know. And yeah, I'm okay, you know, I'm a small streamer, you know, I don't do anything. The most important thing I ever did is commentate Third Strike, and I just make mediocre videos. I mean, you can ask Chrony, right? Like, I make okay videos, you know, they're nothing special. It's just a couple joke videos here and there, and maybe a master rank up, whatever, you know. But I do teach. My biggest gimmick is I like teaching. Yeah, that's where I can give myself credit. But yeah, big thanks to Kuronoki. Thanks for being on the Vibecast, as I like to call it. And
yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no. And then I'll talk to you a bit after this. There's something I wanted to ask you. But yeah, everyone go check out Under Night, the one that's out now. It's on Steam on sale on PlayStation. Get that chance, whatever. And yeah, just and then Kuronoki, any last words you want to say before I close?
As you said, yeah, I do stream on Twitch. It's just my name, Kuronoki. I do have a Twitter as well. I occasionally post on there, and a YouTube that I'm hoping to upload content for the release of like UNI 2. For like anyone that's interested in carmine, I'm hoping to upload like combos, like tech for him. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. And then lastly, if anyone wants to get into like the Under Night community, which I have to say is like by far one of the most like friendly like FGC communities I've been a part of. Like they've been like so welcoming. They've been like teaching me like a ton of stuff the entire time I've like been playing this game. So yeah, check out the UNI Discord, the player hub, and also check out the WAS, the Discord. Those are like the two biggest Discords for this game. So yeah, welcome community. A lot of players on there. If you want to get games, just like ping on either of those servers, and yeah, check them out. So thanks for having me. Been fun, dude.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to like playing some UNI 2 with you and like seeing your thoughts on the game once it releases and everything, right?
And yep, that'll be the end for this. I'm gonna have fun editing the shit out of this and putting timestamps. But yep, that's it. We'll end it off here. And remember, everybody, every day is great when you're chibi.